ushering a drastic change in the world order. The Philippine Islands had been a U.S. territory for 2 decades and was promised independence under the Jones Law of 1916. Progressive reformers saw the country and its people as a major target for modernization, and education was its main weapon. 7 forward-looking Filipinas came together in 1919 to create a school where young women could gain the knowledge and skills that would make them modern women. Paz Marquez Benitez was the first president of the Philippine Women's College. Jose Abad Santos was its first chairman of the Board of Trustees. Francisca Tirona Benitez was the second president, and with her husband Dean Conrado, guided the school from a house on A. Flores Street to its iconic Taft Avenue campus. In 1932, the college became a university, making PWU the first university for women in Asia founded by Asians. It provided a space where innovations in education flourished, and young people were encouraged to be the best that they could be. For over 100 years, the Philippine Women's University has been known as a leader in quality education. In 1934, PWU moved into its main campus on Taft Avenue, and since the 1970s has been co-educational. Located in the heart of Metro Manila, it is easily accessible by public transport and surrounded by affordable housing. Today's PWU offers undergraduate and graduate courses in several fields of study. Its business and management programs are responsive to the needs of industry, using evolving technology for global competence. PWU graduates excel in arts and sciences, education, social work, and diplomacy. Its fine arts and music programs have produced outstanding graduates through a holistic education that treasures heritage as well as excellence. PWU has pioneered in fields such as food science, nutrition and dietetics, medical technology, pharmacy, and nursing. PWU continues to play an essential role in producing graduates who possess the skills that make them competitive in the country and anywhere in the world.
Welcome to this MINDS conference. We will be starting the program in a few minutes.
Maraming mga business na nagsara, maraming mga taong nawalan ng trabaho.
Lift your head, baby, don't be scared of the things that could go wrong along the way.
I have bills to pay, I have loans, I have people to take care of.
Smile, you can win at everything, but you can try.
During the lockdown, nabili na namin yung mga ibang gamit, na-reserve na namin yung ibang hotel. Ngayon, paano namin ibabalik?
No one ever said that there's an easy way, but don't let it bring you down.
Nung
Pinapasok po kami sa isang bahay. Hindi po kami pinapasok. Sakit ng damdamin. Simple sabi nila na COVID.
And I'll stay through the bad times, even if I have to tell.
Bali, nung nawalan trabaho mi, marami din mi, apa kami external construction.
With a smile,
Kasi yung araw-araw na ginagawa namin, halos na-stop na po siya. Kaya kung saan-saan na kami naghanap ng hanap buhay.
everybody hates a happy ending
Naka-float lang kami dahil wala na po kami income.
can make the world go round.
Ang Diyos ang nananaig, hindi yung karamdaman.
Bring you down.
Alam ko ang mga Pilipino hindi basta-basta sumusuko. Dasal lang. And soon, babalik din yung dati.
Prayer and
I will fight for it up to the end. Maraming buhay ang nasalanta ng pandemya. Pero dahil tayo ay Pilipino, babangon tayo na mas malakas, mas matatag, at mas pinagkaisa.
We'll get by with a smile.
Today, I woke up at the edge of the world, where time can't reach. Tiny houses stand untouched by the present. Rolling hills drop off to who knows. Customs are a little different here. Even the fashion is extraordinary. Every corner stands another wonder. Our own little world away from it all.
Good morning, everyone. The Graduate School of Hospitality Management of the Philippine Women's University welcomes you to this virtual MICE conference entitled Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future. Thank you for joining us today at this event. My name is Ira Lei Sugitan. Together with me is Miss Carolina Martinez, and we are your moderators for today's virtual MICE conference. Hello there, Miss Carol. I could really see the excitement in your eyes of what today has to offer.
Yes, that is correct, Miss Ira. It's really indeed an exciting morning today, as we are all eager to learn from our invited hospitality and tourism industry experts, both from the government and the private sector. We are very honored to have them with us today, right?
Yes, you're right, Miss Carol. We are also happy to welcome our participants from all over the country joining us this morning, either via Google Meet or via FB Live. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. There. Please find a comfortable place and check your connectivity. So for your convenience throughout this conference, kindly keep your microphone muted during the webinar unless you will be asked to respond. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Google Meet chat box or at FB chat box. We will conduct the question and answer portion after all the speakers have finished their talk. And finally, e-certificates will be given to those participants who will answer the evaluation form link posted at the end of the webinar. There to give everyone of what it's like to be in the most hard-hit industry because of pandemic and how it is continually prevailing. Here is a teaser.
Wow, that was really an awesome video presentation. And that says a lot really about our industry as we move towards the new normal. But I believe, Ira, right, that our speakers still have a lot of to talk about that later on. So please sit back and relax. But before we get overwhelmed by our excitement towards the virtual conference, let us offer this event to our Almighty Father to remind us of His presence and generous grace as we offer an opening prayer for God's blessings and guidance. This will be immediately followed by the singing of the Philippine national anthem.
If my people will humble themselves in prayer, if they seek my face and humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins. I will hear
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. To formally kick off today's Efficacious webinar, we are honored to have our dynamic and compassionate leader of the Philippine Women's University, President Marco Alfredo M. Benitez.
Good morning. I would first like to thank the organizers of this webinar, the students of our Doctor of Hospitality Management program, for allowing me to share some thoughts on the topic, Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future. I would like to thank our distinguished speakers for taking the time out of their busy schedules to share their insights on a sector that has truly been devastated by the global pandemic, what their forecasts are for the foreseeable future, how the industry can adapt and remain resilient, and how it will likely forever be changed by the events of the past year. The tourism industry remains among the most affected industries by the global pandemic. According to a recent United Nations World Tourism Organization report, international arrivals are expected to decline by more than 70 to 75% globally for the whole of 2020, equivalent to an estimated 1 billion in tourist arrivals and $1.1 trillion in international tourist receipts. For the period of January to October 2020, the Asia-Pacific region was the most affected, with an 82% drop in international arrivals versus 2019 numbers. As an industry heavily reliant on travel, large gatherings, and social interaction, the extensive travel bans, prohibitions on mass gatherings and face-to-face meetings as public health measures to suppress the spread of the virus completely ran contrary to the nature of the MICE industry. After the first 3 months of global lockdown around March to May of last year, some countries attempted to slowly reopen their economies, including the travel and tourism industries. But as most countries still imposed travel bans and struggled to contain the spread of the virus, there was very little confidence for people to travel. Conferences, summits, events, and exhibitions had to shift to the virtual sphere, which, coupled with the rise of video conferencing software such as Zoom and Google Meet, provided some form of substitute and allowed the sector to move forward. These virtual gatherings, together with the adoption of other digital B2B platforms, have facilitated the continued sharing of knowledge, information, and interaction, and even transactions across distances, which otherwise would not have been possible without international and domestic travel. The same UNWTO report predicts that a rebound of international tourism could happen beginning the third quarter of 2021, but that this will only return to 2019 pre-pandemic levels no earlier than 2023. Given these, it would seem that many of the changes we've seen happening in the industry will be with us for at least the next couple of years. Much like the education industry, the pandemic has served as an accelerant of our industry's digital transformation. We've been forced to adapt in order to survive. As education and all of its support systems have shifted online and embraced digital solutions, so too has the MICE industry. Virtual meetings, event software, solutions for crowd monitoring, automated disinfection and sanitation equipment will all likely be here to stay. But just as face-to-face learning will never be fully replaced by online learning, in-person interaction for meetings and events will undoubtedly return sometime in the future. But by then, the industry will have also adapted some form of virtual or hybrid execution for conferences and exhibits. How does the industry remain resilient in the face of these challenges? Which changes will be temporary and which ones are here to stay, even with the impending arrival of vaccines? And what are the forecasts for recovery and even growth for 2021 and beyond? These are just some of the questions I look forward to hearing insights about from today's speakers. Like we have said before, we are in the midst of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and it will take all of us sharing knowledge, collaborating, and working together for our collective good in order to overcome the challenges ahead, regardless of the industry we are in. I look forward to an enlightening set of discussions. Thank you once again, and good morning.
Thank you very much, President Marco Benitez, for that warm message. And it is indeed true that the tourism is one of the industries that is greatly hit by the pandemic. However, we remain resilient and we will overcome these challenges. Okay? And then moving forward, The virtual event will never be possible without our eagerness to master the MICE industry participants. And of course, without the collaborative efforts of our very supportive sponsor. These people are the keys to the success of our event. So to formally acknowledge them, may I please call on Ms. Azucena Palyugna to give us a rundown of everyone present here today.
Good morning to our distinguished speakers, PWU family, administrators, faculty members, and students of the different higher education institutions, industry practitioners, stakeholders, friends, ladies and gentlemen. The organizers, composed of the Doctor of Hospitality Management students, would like to acknowledge our speakers, will be introduced properly later, and our sponsor, JRPA Travel Services. Of course, we have 1,209 confirmed attendees from 32 schools from the different regions in the country. To start with, let me hear the reaction from Jose Rizal University, Our Lady of Fatima University, Lyceum Northwestern University, Central Luzon State University, Philippine Women's University, Benguet State University, Colegio de Dagupan. We also have from Isabela State University, Cabagan, Laguna State Polytechnic University, and we also have from Bulacan State University, Batangas State University, Nasugbo, Ilocos Sur Polytechnic State College, and as far as Davao Oriental State College of Science and Technology. We also have from Capiz State University, St. Paul College in Pasig, Cavite State University. We also have Asian Institute of Maritime Studies, Siena College of Taytay, College of Holy Spirit Manila, Malay College, Central Luzon State University. We have Colleges of Sciences, Technology, and Communication Incorporated, Mountain Province State Polytechnic College, University of Batangas, Lemery Colleges. We also have University of Batangas Lipa Campus. And lastly, we have Cavite State University Carmona Campus. We also have participants from the different tourism-related associations. So let me see the 2 thumbs up from Association of Future Tourism Ambassadors and 3 clap signs from School of Hospitality and Tourism Management Club. So let me acknowledge our viewers on the Facebook. May I see your emoji smile, thumbs up, and heart on the message box. Indeed, we are pleased that you are able to attend our event today. Stay at your most comfortable place, bring your favorite foods and beverages, be relaxed, and learn together new thoughts from our invited speakers. And also, you might be one of our winners later for our mini surprises. So thank you very much and mabuhay.
Thank you, Ma'am Zenny. Oh my God, we are 1,209. We are really all over the Philippines and I think beyond, because one of our speakers is coming from Australia later on. So we are looking forward to that. And again, Ma'am Zenny, thanks a lot. Thank you also to our participants. Welcome, and I hope that this day will bring forth abundant learning to all of you. And to our sponsor, the JRPA Travel Services, thank you very much for your unwavering support. Ms. Ira?
We are really jam-packed today, Ms. Carol. So before fully indulging ourselves to this webinar, let's have a simple poll question first, for we are very much eager to know your mood today. So this poll is called the Mood Barometer. So here it goes. You just have to type in your answers on our chat box, either through Google Meet or through Facebook chat box. And our very enthusiastic organizers will keep an eye on your answers to know which of the choices has the most number. So are you ready? I know you are all ready. So here's the question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how are you feeling today? So we have 5 choices. 1 represents I feel awful. 2, today can be better. 3, yeah, I'm fine. 4, everything is okay. And 5, I feel awesome. So we are very interested to know your answers. So we will be giving you 20 seconds to answer this poll question. Knowing your readiness for today's activity means a lot to both of the organizers and also of the speakers. So please type in your answers. We have 5 choices.
Miss Ira, I think I'll go for 5, right? How about you?
Yeah, me too, ma'am. If there's 6, I will really go to number 3.
Yeah. So while waiting, I think it's coming. Let's see.
Okay, so most of the answers from both Google Meet and Facebook Live is 5. Everyone is feeling awesome, Miss Carol.
That's great now.
So now that we are all feeling fantastic, let us all prepare ourselves of what today's activity has to offer. And to further give us a set-off and to introduce our keynote speaker, we have our truly supportive and imperturbable University Dean of the School of Hospitality Management, Dean Efraimwell Jose L. Abellana.
Thank you, Ira. Thank you, Carol, for a great job. To our University President, Mr. Marco Alfredo M. Benitez, to our Chancellor and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Felina C. Young, our esteemed and sought-after speakers, of course, will be formally introduced later, my fellow deans and program chairs, Dr. Cristina Caluza, Doc Bambi, thank you so much, and other faculty members, and of course, a very supportive Dr. Binch Lao, Ms. Maa Caputuando, and Sir Bob Thomas for your efforts, sir. Thank you so much, madam. And of course, our DHM students, Section DBHR 605, and other students all over the Philippines, in the tertiary and graduate school, in all parts of the Philippines. Friends, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I take this great pleasure in welcoming you all in this exciting web conference, in the meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions course, or the MICE course, a 3-unit course in our Doctor in Hospitality and Management program in our university. This is a 3-year program, including, of course, the dissertation. Our theme for this morning's web conference, Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future, is really a very timely one because we are still on the future, looking beyond of this pandemic, and we are really hopeful for this. And this morning, of course, an exciting learning and, of course, the discussions and insights of our esteemed speakers and the developments of this industry, which is what globally affected. Okay. I also would like to congratulate, of course, Sir Arnold, your team of Zeni, and the rest of your classmates for a job well done. And I really salute you, sirs and Ms. for this great task and great teamwork. Of course, Dr. Caluza is here. With 1,200 students mentioned by Ms. Zeni, I really in awe. I was really in awe about hearing this number of delegates. And in my heart, I'm sure all of us wanted to learn great things today with our speakers of the MICE industry. So again, thank you very much and welcome to this web conference. Thank you so much. And at this juncture, I am very honored and pleased to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Attorney Maria Anthonette Velasco-Allones. She is an educator, an audio practitioner, leadership coach, and lawyer with extensive professional experience in public sector strategic and reform management. Attorney Allones holds a Master in Public Management from the joint program of the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, and the Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. She also completed her Master in National Security Administration at the National Defense College of the Philippines and earned her Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Bachelor of Laws at the University of the Philippines. She has served as Assistant Secretary for Personnel at the Department of National Defense and also as Assistant Secretary of the Department of Labor and Employment. Atty. Allones is a member of the core faculty of the Ateneo School of Government and serves as a subject matter expert for the Career Executive Service Boards, or CSSB, Leadership Development Program. Anthonette earned the distinction to be the first and only recipient of the prestigious 10 Outstanding Young Men, or TOYM, Award for HRD in Government Service in the Philippines. From 2007 to January 2020, she served as Executive Director of the CESB, transforming the key programs on leadership selection, training, and development for the higher civil service. Since February 2020, she serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Tourism Promotions Board. Please join me in welcoming Atty. Maria Anthonette Velasco-Allones.
Maraming salamat po, Dean Prime, for that very generous introduction. Thank you very much. A pleasant morning to our co-learners and co-advocates for tourism. And I know there are some people who are in other parts of the world, so whatever your time zone is, good afternoon and probably good evening to Zeni, no, who did a very good introduction of the participants. I won't acknowledge now all of the important people that are with us and who played a very important role in staging this webinar. Congratulations po to PWU and to the school, no, and Dean and your team. You have an awesome team, and Ira and Carol, ninenervyos pa yata yung mga dalawang MC natin, ano. So konting relax pa dyan. Oo. Nakaka-nervyos talaga yung mga ganito. But I'd like to mention Joel Pascual, who I think is joining me as a speaker, and Professor Scott also. I'm looking forward to hearing their sharing later on. Congratulations on your topic. Cute, no? Unboxing. This is very millennial. So usually we unbox the things we have shopped from online stores, or when you physically go out, you're so excited when you get home, you unboxed it. So I hope you have the same enthusiasm in terms of what lies ahead for the MICE industry, considering our near past the 2020 year, and of course we are still amidst the pandemic, so the challenge of continually adapting to the emerging requirements of the new normal is there. So congratulations on that very timely title. I'd like to share my slide so that you can also see what I'm going to talk about, and yeah, just a quick check if you can see the slide. Ira and Carol?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right. So let me start with the past. And the past has been painted pink, no, very rosy color past for MICE, because this slide shows you, and I know you are well aware of this, but just to refresh, this slide shows you the most effective reasons or case. Why make the case for MICE? Why is it important? Particularly for the Philippines. You can see like there are 7 boxes there. Particularly for the Philippines, well, let me start at the bottom. All of these 6 boxes contribute to the final 7, which allows us to promote the country with a very positive image or perspective about us as a destination, our capacity to stage events, therefore our competence, and the world-class, unbeatable trademark of Filipino excellence and service. So MICE in the past has allowed us to be able to do that. It was a platform as well for tourism promotions. If you zoom in, okay, let's get down to to the basic. What's in it for us? Kanina, no, sina Angel Lau, the other stakeholders in Region 1, were all lamenting about the financial or economic adverse impact of the pandemic. And that is equally true for MICE, and you can multiply that 6 times. Why? Well, MICE allows us to have a higher average daily expenditure, or the ADE. And as I said, a MICE participant who comes here to the country spends 6 times more than the ordinary tourist. Okay. The second advantage, of course, of promoting MICE is that given that the Philippines is an archipelago, and while we only have 2 seasons, hot or hotter, okay ba yung seasons natin? Or we can also say there's a summer or rainy season. And therefore, because of we have many beach destinations, somehow this impacts to the kinds of tourism portfolios or products that can be enjoyed by our tourists. But MICE, considering that the venue is controlled, I'm sure Joel later on will share with you how also the sector has adopted innovations and technologies to allow even for greater flexibility, so that whatever the season is, the venues, the opportunities for staging MICE remain to be accessible and available. So MICE reduces limits to the natural barriers our seasons give us. Then I was trying to look for a better word, but okay, this is what the document also says: better quality of tourists. But let me clarify that this is not to denigrate or to, put on second class, or there's a nominal value to the different kinds of tourists. This only means that usually MICE delegates or participants, MICE tourists, are professionals, so they belong to certain groups of specialized sectors, like you have medical conventions, so there are doctors who come, or it's an engineering convention, so you have also professional engineers who attend. And therefore, I think in the current context, we will minimize situations where you have forgers of the RT-PCR results so that they will be allowed entry to the tourism destination. So we are at least assured of the uniform behaviors, the ideal behaviors that we are looking for among our tourists or visitors, for that matter. Of course, MICE is the still most effective and efficient platform for conducting business and trade. Well, you can hold people in one place, and now congratulations to our stakeholders also. They have adapted quickly, just like you in the education sector, exploring available platforms, what technologies are there, so that in fact MICE did not altogether stop in 2020. In the beginning, of course, we were all looking for the playbook. How do we do this? How do we now conduct MICE? It was different. It was difficult. But as soon as we had knowledge and we learned from the best practices of other countries, of other stakeholders, then the management of learning and management of knowledge helped tremendously in enabling us to also restage our business and trade events, although in either a purely virtual platform or a hybrid function, as I'm going to share with you later. MICE, of course, as I mentioned, allows for the efficient transfer of knowledge and technology. We benefit from the expertise of speakers. We learn from what others are doing, and we are able to benchmark with our stakeholders or quote-unquote competitors, but I'd like to really view them as co-advocates, as co-champions of the MICE industry. Then, of course, MICE allows for bleisure. So this is a coined word that actually simply represents that the MICE allows for our delegates to extend to leisure activities after the business events are done. And this we see even domestically, like for our own convened conventions among government officials, you will always constantly see that the program at the end of the convention, you will notice that either it's a full day or a half day that's devoted to leisure activities. And as I said in the beginning, well, the biggest case, the most effective, strongest why for doing MICE is that it gives us a chance to do our patriotic duty, our contribution to promote the country positively as a destination. The Tourism Act of 2009 actually clearly provides for the promotion of MICE as a mandate of the Tourism Promotions Board. And specifically, we are actually compelled to undertake activities that will allow for the development and promotion of the Philippines as the MICE, the preferred MICE destination in Asia. Okay, so that was the rosy past, and we're looking ahead to the future. What does the forecast or what do trends show us, and what are the key assumptions that many market research sentiment surveys have indicated for this year and probably 2 or 3 years ahead? Well, for one, primary is that safety, Safety is the new luxury. So it is key, essential, I would even say indispensable to the MICE industry for it to be able to adopt the health and safety protocols, quickly adjust to the changing requirements, and evolve the way of doing MICE business. Earlier when I was looking at the video you played relative to the Ilocos stakeholders and players in the tourism industry, my own feeling was, okay, they were, I think, all feeling down and not so positive, because human nature is that we want full control, right, of our lives and the many things that we do. And the pandemic forced us to yield control to the virus in the meantime, since we don't know exactly the many, scientific and medical concerns that came with it. But now, human nature also is that for us to survive, we quickly adapt to new information, new knowledge, and therefore the new policies and processes that have been put in place. And top of those policies, protocols would be the promotion and observance and adherence to safety protocols. The second one, the green one, is good news. There is prediction that this year, maybe by the third or fourth quarter, we will slowly see the return of face-to-face interactions, because I'm sure my other co-speakers will agree, there really is no substitute for that warm handshake. Or for us Filipinos, we're so fond of beso-beso or the hugs, and there's no, all the studies point to it, there's no substitute for that. So the likelihood of events being staged purely virtual or hybrid to continue is not high. Most likely we will see the quick, gradual return of in-person events. Okay, although for this year, let me share with you that many, if not most, of the scheduled events have been prepared for a hybrid staging. Okay, digitalization. If safety is the new luxury, digitalization is the new oil. The new investments and the returns of investments happen when you do investments decisions on digitalization. Well, digitalization on many aspects of operations, including like what we're doing now. We're adopting social media platforms to have this conversation today. So for venues that will physically host events, they are expected to offer options that will support this. We see there are robots now who do marshalling following functions in the venue, or there are also biometric devices that allow us to manage the crowd and to monitor the situation in the events. Then traveling for MICE, we are told that majority of event planners expect live events. So as I mentioned, this is related to the return of face-to-face interactions. We see that happening by the third or fourth quarter of this year and up to next year. Of course, understandably, we will move in phases, okay? So business events are expected to be geographically phased as the restrictions ease and business confidence returns on inter-province, regional, and even international level. So I've shared with you the rosy, glowing past for MICE, the strategic future, and now let me share just two of the major directions the TPB is presently pursuing that are aligned with this thrust. The first one has to do with our early decision last year to adopt smart tourism as a strategy. By smart tourism, this means we are strengthening our digital platforms. We are also beefing up our competence for data-driven planning, and of course, the adoption of innovations as tools for promotions and marketing activities. Last October, we launched the Travel Philippines app, which is the official guide to safe and fun travel. Right now, it is informational in functionality. It provides updated information on all the protocols in the destinations that are currently open. Then, of course, smart tourism is something that hopefully will also allow us to in fact level up to what's happening around the world. So the third square figure here shows us what's happening around the world, and this is a dream. This is a dream for the Philippines, for us, like being able to have the wearables that allow for tracking, tracing, and then of course all the other dimensions of the Internet of Things, beginning with travel and of course in the actual venue. So biometric technology will be here to stay, and as it evolves, we hope to keep pace with the changes and developments in that area. Our second strategy is indispensable. No matter where, even if you have the best tools, you have the most advanced technology, but you don't have the right like-minded, spirited partners with you, you will not go very, very far. So partnership as a pathway is an essential strategy for the Tourism Promotions Board. I think my co-speaker later on, Joel Pascual, who is the president of PASEOS, will attest to you how we really have endeavored to keep the connection, to strengthen the connection throughout the lockdown and the observance of physical distancing. Physically, we might be 6 feet apart, but by heart, pusuan natin. We should remain close, aligned with each other, walking, in pace, in synchronized steps with each other. So we want to cultivate partnerships with stakeholders, with you, my God, you are one effective, a lot of people and co-advocates in the academe, our students. If you want to do volunteer work, if you have IT, if you have an IT department who wants to help us now as we endeavor to enhance and upgrade the app, oh my God, Dean Prime and President Benitez, we would very much welcome that. The TPB has received a number of volunteerism offers from out-of-school youth organizations, and I think more so for you students and members of the academe. Although I know you have many assignments and group work, but you can do something more fun and a patriotic duty to the country. So you will see that FITEX 2020 here as an icon is a MICE event. It's a travel exchange event annually organized by the government. It's the biggest travel exchange organized by government. And last year, we did not let the pandemic stop us from doing the hybrid MICE of FITEX 2020 in September. Our sellers joined us physically in Bohol, Panglao, no? And our 122 buyers from 34 countries overseas joined us in the virtual platform. So see, as we say in Filipino, pag gusto, may paraan. Yan. Even our regional travel fairs last year were still implemented, although we did it on the online platform. And the third one is really key and basic for the Department of Tourism and the Tourism Promotions Board, which is ensuring that we safely reopen destinations and be able to do promotions of our tourism portfolios, products, and destinations in a safe way. So we are rolling out in partnership with local government units the Bounce Back Philippine Tourism Program. As you know, the President in July's SONA also articulated this, that given the restrictions and travel barriers for now, our strategy is really the promotion of domestic tourism. Those of you who want to travel in December, the TPB rolled out the subsidy program for RT-PCR tests for tourists. So for PCMC, you only pay 750 pesos. And if you're doing the test in PGH, you will only pay 900 pesos, no, for the RT-PCR test, the results of which you get within 24 hours prior to your arrival or departure for the destination. Last year, I am proud to inform you that the World Travel and Tourism Council gave the Philippines authority to grant the use of Safe Travel Stamp. So this is an imprimatur of our competence to allow and enable our accommodation establishments and other tourism, restaurants and ancillary service facilities to have a stamp of safety and approval from the WTTC. So that's those, my friends, are my thoughts for your webinar today in terms of looking, in retrospect on why MICE is important, our current undertakings, endeavors, and thrusts in the TPB, and the predictions, trends, and forecasts for 2021 in the future. As I close, let me share this quote that says, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." 2020, when we say 2020, perfect vision. And I hope the pause from the pandemic gave us clearer eyes to see and appreciate the beauty of our country, no? The beauty of our people, the resilience of our people, and our undoubted resilient spirit to move on, to persist and persevere. Thank you for this chance. I will stop sharing because I'll ask Robert to share the newly launched video on the SAFE campaign for the Philippines. Robert? There's a 90-second video. Okay. very much. So when you're ready, guys, we are ready. God bless po.
Thank you very much. We will be ready, Atty. Allones. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was indeed a very informative discussion. I was struck with the data or with the message you sent us a while ago that tourists spend 6 times, MICE tourists spend 6 times more than an ordinary tourist. So I just can imagine the losses of the businesses in the MICE industry. But you also mentioned that we Filipinos are known for our trademark of having excellence in service. So we try to adapt the best practices of another country, but of course, taking into consideration the safety protocol, because safety is the new luxury. So thank you very much once again, Atty. Allones. We really had a very great time listening to your talk.
Maraming
Ms. Ira?
salamat po.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Attorney. It's actually the view that's important. It's not actually the view that's important. It's how you view it. So that's what really struck me the most. And it's now time for our participants. It's now time for our second poll. So again, just type in your answer on our chat box. So here comes our second poll for this webinar. So punta naman tayo sa medyo concert type. Let's imagine for a while that BTS, a Korean pop group, is coming to Manila for a concert this year. So how likely will you watch their concert at the SMX? So we have 5 choices again. For letter A, so this time you will type in A, B, C, D, or E. For letter A, no way, I will not watch BTS. For letter B, I want to, but my safety is more important. For letter C, I'm torn. 50% yes and 50% no. For D, most likely, so I have to prepare my PPE so I could go. And for letter E, of course, here's my GCash and where can I pay? So there are your 5 choices for this poll. Again, kindly type in your answers on our chat box and our organizers will really look into your answers to know kung ano po yung pinakamataas na sagot. How about you, Miss Carol? Would you go to the BTS concert?
Ira, I'm guilty. I only heard BTS from my kids. So, our seasoned educators present here today, I'm not so sure. But probably they will be taking into consideration the safety protocol. So let's see the result.
Maybe for me, I would go for air supply. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah, same here.
Yes, ma'am. So results are coming in already. So I see that most of our participants have answered letter B. Safety right now, as of this moment, is a luxury because most of our participants answered letter B, which is I want to, but my safety is more important.
Yeah,
Maybe we could do a concert virtually.
Yeah. They will if they are ready, just like Atty. Allones. Very, very soon, Ma'am Ira.
Yes, definitely, Miss Carol. Now, moving on, to fittingly recognize the contribution of Attorney Velasco-Allones, may we invite Dr. Cristina and Caluza and Mr. Arnold V. Ancheta to present the certificate and token of appreciation.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to award this Certificate of Appreciation, Philippine Women's University, Manila Campus School of Hospitality Management. Graduate School present the Certificate of Appreciation to Attorney Maria Anthonette C. Velasco-Allones for sharing his time and expertise as keynote speaker in the webinar entitled Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future, given the 6th day of February 2021 at the Philippine Women's University, Taft Avenue, Manila, Philippines, signed by the event's chair, Arnold V. Ancheta, Yours truly, Cristina Caluza, the faculty coordinator and the Dean of the School of Hospitality Management, Dr. Efrain Jose L. Abellana. Thank you very much, Attorney Allones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir Arnold,
Attorney will be sending it to you via courier.
No problem.
And also your e-certificates via email. Thank you once again, Attorney.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, thank you.
Myra.
May I invite everybody to please turn on their camera for a photo opportunity. Okay.
Thank you, Attorney. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Moving right along to the primary objective of our productive day, we now have Ms. May Ann P. Rivera to introduce to us our first speaker for today, who will be propounding on the sustainability in events in the hotel and restaurant sectors.
Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to present to you our first resource speaker. She is the Executive Director of Asia World Hospitality, the Philippine representative of American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute, or known as ALE, National Restaurant Association, or NRA, a world leader in training and professional certification for the hospitality and tourism industry. As a strong proponent of continuous learning, she has spent the past 6 years helping provide 14 professional certifications to over 70 universities, colleges, and schools, over 70 hotels and resorts, and over 30 agencies to representation and collaboration with various organizations such as U.S. Embassy Commercial Service, Department of Tourism, Office of the Manpower Development, K-12 unit, and City Disaster Risk Reduction Management offices in Mindanao. Her advocacy is to elevate the standard of education for the hospitality and tourism industry to an international level. She is a Certified Guest Service Professional, or CGSP, and a Certified Lodging Security Officer, or CLSO, essential certification in the service industry. Let's welcome, with a virtual clap, Ms. Machi Borja.
Good morning, everyone. Maayong buntag sa tanan. Maayong hapon, maayong aga. Assalamualaikum. And naimbag bigat to all. I'll just be starting my presentation. Kindly hold. Okay, good morning again. Today we'll be talking about sustainability. And to start with, dynamic borders, border restrictions, global lockdowns, and social distancing have impacted everyone from all levels of industries. And in order to soften the blow caused by the pandemic, we must address the uncertainty and turn a more transformative and livable pathways. And the service industry's most essential role right now is to continuously provide livelihood to its communities while boosting the economy and enabling countries to thrive for longevity. And sustainability plays an integral part in the new reality that we are in. So today's focus will be on what do we mean by sustainability, what are the environmental, economic, and social impacts of the service industry, how COVID-19 is reshaping consumer behavior and its effect on the service industry sustainability efforts, and lastly, how digital solutions improve sustainability in the time of COVID-19. I'd like to start my presentation with this quotation by Malcolm X, that education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And we have to constantly learn on how to adapt and be more aware of the world that we live on to redefine our lives and also foster longevity. And what do we mean by sustainability? Sustainability is a business approach to creating long-term value by taking into consideration how a given organization operates in the environmental, social, and economic environment. And here are some key areas that we also have to look after. First would be the responsible food consumption and production. Next would be the innovation and infrastructure. Another important key area that we also have to look into is the social responsibility and collaboration. And next would be mental health and well-being. Next, one of the areas that I'm pretty passionate about is quality education. And lastly, ethical practices. So what are the environmental, economic, and social impacts of the service industry? First, we tackle the environmental effects, and key priorities start with the carbon footprint. Consumers are now looking for services or product offerings from brands that emit smaller carbon footprint. And global trend reports that consumers are looking for ways to decrease environmental impact on a micro level, and companies are also expected to hold similar standards throughout the delivery and production. Next would be the responsible consumption. We always say that it's about doing more and better with less. And that's another hedonistic approach of sustainability. And it's also about decoupling economic growth from environmental degradation, increasing resource efficiency, and promoting sustainable lifestyles. And it also contributes to poverty alleviation and transition towards low carbon and green economies. A perfect example for responsible consumption and production would be the Sustainable Diner Project, where it aims to lessen food wastage and contribute to the improvement of the implementation and processes in the food service sector. It also aims to engage the government agencies, food service businesses, and consumers in promoting sustainable dining practices and in making the Philippines a food service industry more environmental friendly. Next is sustainable sourcing. This focuses on local ingredients, growing ingredients with minimal environmental impact, and also incorporating ingredients that may otherwise go to waste. And another perfect example for this is Massimo Bottura's Soup Kitchen, that instead of building a pavilion at the Milan Expo last 2015, he decided to build a refectorio, a place where he could feed the needy, and the project was two-pronged. Not only would it fight hunger, it would also take a creative approach to solving the problem of food wastage. Next is the efficient use of renewable energy and water usage. Another example for sustainable sourcing is Thailand's Fair Trade Farm to Cup approach coffee tour, wherein 14 local families build the concept and encourages small businesses to uniquely offer niche experiences from process of growing, roasting, and marketing organic coffee beans. The idea challenges the perception of travelers and gives more understanding on responsible tourism. And next would be the efficient use of renewable energy and water usage. Some companies use carbon-free geothermal energy, and some utilizes wind power for production. A great example for this is the wind turbines in Guimaras. And another beverage industry uses artificial irrigation that doesn't release wastewater and collects rainwater to be used to farming communities. And a great example for this is the company of the Absolute Vodka. Next is the minimizing waste and finding use of byproducts. Distillery companies sell spent grains as animal feeds, and another innovative initiative like the zero waste application, so you can access it on via streaming platforms, minimizes load miles. And some companies take their byproducts to produce composts. Another interesting example for this is the coffee shop in UK, wherein the company collaborated with local mushroom growers by donating their used coffee grounds to create growing kits that helps mushroom productions. And another company brand that offers a first come, first served basis of spent grains to be used to enrich gardens and composts. And lastly, packaging. Airlines partners with renewable fuel company for sustainable fuel project. Another airline launched on an onboard recycling scheme wherein packaging on all domestic flights will be stored according to its category. Another beverage industry, another beverage company use frosted or screen printed bottles to mock up a cycling system. And another packaging alternatives would be the use of non-toxic glues, eco-friendly inks. And a great example for this is a whiskey company that will be launching a paper-based bottle that are made from source wood pulp to lessen carbon footprint by 90%. And some companies do incentivize discounts for recycling. Next, on the economic impact, the key priorities are the following: innovation and infrastructure, crisis management, quality education and research, and workforce development. So in innovation and infrastructure, another example for this, or a perfect example for this, would be the aviation's groundbreaking jet engine cleaning system, which is another alternative for water wash method that restores engine, leading to reductions in fuel consumption. And smart hotels are also adapting smart technology to improve customer experience and to make the livelihood of their workforce easier. Another trend that I also heard from Atty. Allones earlier are hybrid events. This will actually increase its role this year, as it will help aid the concern of the shifting economy, and with the help of creative applications, interactive websites, the movement or the trend allows followers to take part in virtual experience via streaming platform. And this approach will also lessen carbon footprint that creates a more sustainable practice. Next would be crisis management. This is now the particular focus for reestablishing global air connectivity for the development of our communities, workforce, businesses, and economies through multi-layered biosafety measures, vaccination programs to harmonization. And this also increase in data and occupational safety in line with the government requirements for COVID-19 guidelines and protocols. And another thing that the crisis management is looking after is the critical infrastructure protection. Next would be the quality education and research. Continuous training of the educators to adapt with technology via online certifications or professional certifications and distance learning are now top priority. This will also aid the effective quality of education to their students in cascading the right information, the relevant information, and sensible and stringent protocols that we are facing in the new reality. And some companies fund their employee education while also promoting its brand as a platform to create change. So this is also a good smart way to market your company. And research plays an important role to identify issues, gather relevant information, create new process in the new reality for the service industry's development and safety. And another interesting innovation that we are also looking into when it comes to quality education and research is the open university, wherein you can remotely study from home while also take leisure, and it encourage the increase of productivity to the students. Next would be the workforce development. A tequila company offers lessons after work and on-site childcare to its women employees as an example for workforce development. And some brands have taken the step of being a fair trade certified, which entails labor, social, environmental compliance for fair compensation. This is also a great opportunity to recalibrate workforce to stay relevant and to develop essential skills and relevant skills with the new reality. Next is the social cultural front. And the key priorities would be the following: gender equality, mental health awareness, brand collaboration, preservation and restoration of cultural heritage. And to start with the gender equality, placing emphasis on salary gaps, sexual abuse and harassment by colleagues and tourists, and fostering female workers' participation and decision-making are now the primary goals of this key priority. And some hotels, resorts, and food service industries are installing gender-neutral facilities to create safe space and to develop support system. Another tequila company in Mexico protests anti-immigration policies and advocates of anti-LGBTQIA rights. Next would be the mental health awareness. The rise of wellness tourism focuses on work-life balance, especially during this pandemic. And joining sustainable communities will boost a positive outlook in life. And going green also teaches us to be more mindful. Some hotels and restaurants have redesigned facilities and developed employee feedback systems that support and build awareness on preserving a good and healthy mindset of their workforce. And this aim for increased productivity. Next would be the brand collaboration. Wine and spirits brands led the change along with the glass experts in the United States to improve glass recycling via outreach in education. And another latest collaboration that I saw from a travel news is that there's a collaboration between government and EHL centers wherein they focus on training service-minded hospitality professionals ready to thrive in a shifting industry through their EHL programs. And another hotel brand has created a bespoke program in partnership with the premier ballet company to tailor workout programs for fitness-focused goals. And the collaboration offers an innovative variation from typical in-room workouts. Next would be preservation, and restoration of cultural heritage. On the food and beverage side, one great example would be the ancestral houses that are being converted into a cultural themed restaurants wherein they give value on the heirloom ingredients and its production. And another gin company in the United States donates 1% of its profit to restore wild fish stocks to help the whales. And this is a great example of marine biodiversity. And I'd like to quote Jane Goodall's statement that you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. And what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. And to make a difference, we must seize this moment to provide alternative support for communities, for the economy, to develop in a creative, impactful, inspiring, and authentic travel journey. The next topic will be how COVID-19 is reshaping consumer behavior and its effect on the service industry's sustainability efforts. Consumer behavior will be influenced by the evolution of the crisis right now. And in the longer, if we are looking in the longer term, this focus on the safety and contactless tourism experience. And in order for us to address that, service providers must recalibrate the way they market, the way they manage, and the way they plan sustainable practices to continuously develop the community. And this also has to meet the consumer's impact-conscious mindset. Next, and the last but not the least, how digital solutions improve sustainability in the time of COVID-19. By bringing people together, tourism can promote solidarity and trust. And in order to stay connected, top brands are adapting technologies like scannable QR codes, contactless check-in, mobile room keys, touchless payments, and in-app ordering and appointment booking. Hotels are also deploying customer-facing technology to grant remote access to front desk, concierge, and customer service. One great example for this are chatbots or live chats for immediate assistance. And in the airline industries, like Istanbul Airport, wherein they are now considered a smart airport, features digital journey experience through their online resource materials like digital wallet, commercial platform that serves a marketplace that allows outlets in the airport to promote their products online. And this also serves facial feature data that links to passengers' tickets, passport, and digital biometrics through the airport's mobile application. And these are artificial intelligence-based smart systems project that aims for continuous increase in productivity and also to promote a more safer and a more safer journey. And with that, I'd like to end my presentation with this statement that with the help of impact-conscious consumers, the MICE or the meetings, incentives, conferences, and events, hotels and restaurants industries can gear for a more sustainable tomorrow. Thank you very much po, and please take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Machi. Well, really that sustainability is a big word in the hospitality and tourism industry. But I believe our audience really have a lot of takeaway from your discussion. Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing your time with us. Thanks again, Ms. Machi. Ira?
Yes, we know that our participants, Ms. Machi, have gained a lot from your presentation. So for our participants, for your question, just type in our chat box and we will be choosing questions later for the open forum. So let me read one comment from our FB Live. So this is from Ms. Roan Feliz Nagbitang. According to her, I support glass production. So for our spectators, our participants, just type in your comments and we will read them so that our speakers will be able to know your thoughts about their presentation. So before we move forward again, in behalf of the organizing team of this webinar, we would like to extend our gratitude to JRPA Travel Services for they really helped in making this webinar at par with international standards. Speaking of international, to introduce our second speaker for this webinar, who really is at par with international standards and really is from international soil, we have Ms. Carolina R. Martinez.
Thank you again, Ira. So good morning again, everyone. Our second speaker for this morning is an adjunct professor of tourism management in the Sustainable Research Center, University of Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. His research interests include the study of tourism experiences and destination management and marketing. Furthermore, he is a frequent speaker in an international academic and industry conferences. He also has over 300 academic articles published, which includes 17 books. He has also supervised over 30 doctoral students to a successful completion of their thesis. He is an editorial board of 10 journals, a member of the International Association of China Tourism Scholars, and a fellow of the Council of Australasian Tourism and Hospitality Education. Prior to starting his academic career in 2001, our speaker worked as a senior manager for a variety of business, including as manager research and strategic services at Tourism and Events Queensland. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Professor Noel Scott.
Oh, hello. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm in Australia today in Brisbane, and I am very pleased to be able to talk to you. This is the wonder of the World Wide Web and webinars and things, and it allows me to travel to the Philippines without actually leaving my home. So thanks for this opportunity. Now, I'd like to thank the people who have organized this. We had a message from your president. The dean is here, who's a very important person, and the previous speakers who have all done a wonderful job. Also, I wanted to thank or to say that the meeting so far has been very professional. So all of the students who have done a great job, I think you should all, if this is for your assignment, or if you're getting marks for this, I think you should all pass. Or no, not just pass. I think you should all get top marks. Okay, so I'm sure that's going to happen. So I'm sorry, I sometimes get carried away. Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about some areas that I'm particularly interested in. You know, there are a number of keywords that I'll be talking about. Competencies, that's about training and making sure that people are fit to and able to work in an industry or in a job or in some capacity. Innovation, that is new things and how we might develop a more attractive my sector in the future. I also want to talk about experience design, because this is, I think, a great developing area. We've already had some of the speakers talk about the idea of experience design. I just want to go into a little bit more detail, and also to talk about some of the psychology of developing MICE industry experiences. Okay, so that's the sort of thing. Now, the other thing I have to do is to, oh yes, here we are, a window. So I hope now people can see my screen. Is that correct? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you able to? Good. Okay. Whew, I always worry about those things. But anyway, so the technology is working again. All the students who are involved in this should get top marks. Okay, so why do we need innovation in the my sector, and why should we be thinking about experience design? Well, first of all, as we know in COVID, the future is always uncertain, and really the only thing that we can do to prepare ourselves for an uncertain future is to learn how to adapt and to innovate. Okay, and therefore, as students, as professional people, we should be thinking that the future is not going to be the same as the present. Now, I can tell you that because I'm an old man and I have been involved in the tourism industry for about 30 years, and before that I've seen many changes. So when I was your age, there were no such things as fax machines, I think. I think fax machines came in, and then there was this great idea about email, and then there was all this stuff about the web. Oh, and now there's stuff about artificial intelligence, and it just keeps on going and going and going. And so in my life, I've had to continually learn and sort of reinvent myself to because of new technology and other things. And I think that that's one lesson for everyone in the MICE sector. We should be thinking about reinventing ourselves to match changing conditions. COVID is an example of that. What we have found, what I think is clear, is that as economies have developed, as people have become essentially around the world wealthier, they are less likely to want to only have physical things. You know, you can have, you know, so I'm sure some of the professors here will have a Ferrari or a BMW or something. That's good, and you can have one of those. That's a wonderful physical product to buy. And you could probably buy two. You could buy three. But after 3 or 4 or 5 luxury cars, most people lose interest, but perhaps, or they run out of money or something. But if you talk about travel, going to different countries, having interesting experiences, then usually people, there's no sort of falling off of interest. People want to visit lots of countries. People want to have great experiences, and the more they can have, the better. So this is the idea of the experience economy. That is that these days when people have got essentially lots of money, they're less likely to be satisfied with tangible products and more interested in experiences. And you see that in many places, restaurants where at one time people would eat from home and cook their own meals. Then we got people able to eat out. And now we have restaurants which are producing more exotic or interesting experiences. We see the same thing in hotels. We see the same thing, I think, in the MICE sector as well, and possibly even more noticeable in the incentives industry, where the people going on incentive tours are looking for something pretty special. So we have to think about experiences and offer them, and that's the experience economy, and that will become more prevalent in future. Probably, or you know about this now. New technology, other speakers have talked about the use of new technology. That's another driver of innovation, opening up lots of opportunities for doing things differently, both to address COVID, but also to enhance the experience of conferences. And we had a good example of this, the use of the way the organizers are having a little poll where you can make answers and they can summarize it. It's a great technique to get, but what's it doing? It's trying to get people engaged. And if you want people to pay attention and participate, they have to be engaged, and allowing people to give some feedback makes them pay more attention and think, oh, okay, and it's a bit of fun too. So I would argue that there are a number of different ways of using technology to enhance the experience of a conference or a meeting. The third area, which is why we need innovation, is because of all you young people. You youngies, you're different from, you've grown up differently from me and perhaps some of the other older people here. You've grown up at a time when information was everywhere and communication was on your smartphone, and everyone's got one. And so you can provide instantaneous feedback of things. That I think has changed the way we view many things in society. You know, as an example, when I first went overseas to England in 1979, I used to write letters to my family once a week. That was great. And possibly in a week or two's time, I'd get a response. Isn't that strange? But now, so many of the things we've thought about when we're designing meetings may have actually come from that time. Maybe we need to rethink them. The fourth area, and this is particularly important, this is sort of an area that I find interesting, is that there is a reason why the experience economy, millennials, and new technology want new things. And we may be able to say, let's design experiences, or let's produce more emotional and exciting events. But we don't really know how these experiences affect people, or we haven't in the past, okay? But recently, there's been lots of very interesting research about how our brain works. It used to be in the past that we would say decisions are made rationally. That when you make a decision to do something, it's all rational. And that we only use logic and we evaluate different options and things. And that may be true in some situations. But perhaps neuroscience is telling us that those rational decisions are really rationalizations of decisions that are strongly affected by emotions. And in fact, most important decisions, I think, are based on emotional reactions. Now, there's another interesting thing about that, because people say, emotion? That's crazy. I'm logical, I'm rational. My decisions are, you know, the best outcome. And that's different from emotional decisions, but it's not. An emotional decision is usually the most rational thing you can do. emotion directs us. It's a inbuilt mechanism in our brain to help us make decisions which are best for us, which allow us to meet our goals. So neuroscience gives us a lot of insight into how to design experiences, how people make decisions, that I think is really useful and different from the way it's taught in textbooks in the old days, or perhaps today. And finally, all this comes together in the idea that novelty, which we might see in the experience economy, in new technologies, what millennials are asking for, is a core or important underpinning of creating memorable experiences. So what I'm saying is it all sort of ties together, that if we understand neuroscience, we can better use novelty, design better experiences to create better mice events. And this requires us to learn new things, and eventually I want to lead to the fact that perhaps we need to get our students to learn about neuroscience, but also to learn about how to be creative. And that will be the best thing to deal with situations in the future. Okay, so I'll now just go through some of those issues one by one. I hope we can have a poll. Who can do a poll for me? Who's heard of the experience economy? Maybe I'll ask Carolina. Carolina, have you heard of the experience economy?
Yes, I think it's part of the things that we're teaching. I'm into teaching tourism students.
Good.
An experience economy is you go, like for example, the Philippines, we can be considered as an experience economy since we invite guests before probably, and whatever they have experienced from our country is something that will be etched in their minds forever, and that's something that they will not forget, as compared to buying cars, as you were mentioning a while ago, that after some times you would probably want to buy another car.
Great, that's a very good answer. Another, I think you're now sort of above 100% in my assessment. So yes, if you see this image on the screen, you'll see that maybe if we go back to less developed economies, people are worried about food, or they might be interested in buying rice. And yeah, they might distinguish between different types of rice, but the price of rice might have a fairly fixed value. So that might be called a commodity. Then we have goods. Goods are made, they're cars. You can develop brands for a good, and that's a way of trying to increase the value of the good when it's sold. But usually people have a pretty good idea of the value of a good because they're easier to compare. A car is a car. There are expensive cars and less expensive cars. But we generally might have an idea of what the value of a car is. Services. Services add a lot more intangible. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, Prof, loud and clear.
Good, sorry.
Yes,
so services have a lot more intangibility. There are things that you see and things that you do, but often the value of a service is a little bit less tangible. And once we get to experiences, then most of the things that you buy are intangible. They're not things that you can touch. But as Caroline, you said, they produce wonderful memories. So what you essentially buy in the experience economy is a hopefully pleasurable and sometimes delightful experience. which you remember. And the point I want to make is that that's what the MICE industry does. It's selling memorable experiences. Okay, the meeting rooms, the chairs, the banquets, they're all part of it, but they're what I would call the tangible parts. And if you can add to those with intangibles, then you're going to be more successful. And here, the other thing I'll say is, we always want to produce a meeting which is pleasurable. And if you want to have something pleasurable, you're thinking about people's emotions, right? So arguably, when you say you want a pleasurable outcome from a meeting, you mean you want people to have positive emotions. Now, satisfaction can be considered a calm, positive emotion. So if you're producing for satisfactory experiences, well, that's good. One step in the right direction. But I would argue that really you want more emotional outcomes, which will increase the memorability of those outcomes. Therefore, you're thinking about trying to delight people. You want higher aroused positive emotions. And so therefore, if we want to work in the experience economy, we need to work out how to produce high arousal positive emotions. Okay, Carolina, I'm going to ask you about that. No, I won't, I'm sorry. But the idea is that's a thing which in the past people have known how to do practically, but they haven't understood it theoretically, why something produces delight. But recently, in the cognitive science literature, neuroscience, there's been some work done which helps us to understand why those things happen, and that's what I want to talk about. But before we get to that, another trend, all this stuff is happening in new technology. We've got faster internet, augmented reality, virtual meetings, here we are today, smartphones, which allow us to provide, less tangible parts of an experience in an easier way. Augmented reality is a way of producing intangible experiences which are more real to the person. They talk about presence. And so new technology in itself is nothing. Well, it's important, but it's not delivering experiences. We have to use this technology to allow us to be more effective in achieving the outcomes that we want from our events. Oh, the millennials. Oh, this is everyone. Most of the people here are millennials. And in fact, 60% of worldwide of millennials live in Asia, mainly in China and India, but of course, Philippines, Southeast Asia generally, Indonesia. And you guys, as I said, are different in the way you think. Not everyone's really different, but maybe there are things which are more emphasized in the way younger people think. You do make, at the moment, 25% of the total working population of the world. So dealing with this stuff is important, especially for meetings. And arguably, you guys are leading the global consumption market. So we got to think about what you want when we're producing events. And at least in travel and tourism, I've done less work myself in the MICE sector, but in travel and tourism, millennials want travel experiences that are fun, meaningful, emotional, and surprising. This is where the idea of volunteering has come from. volunteering on when people travel overseas, maybe being more socially meaningful as a result of your travel, is a way of trying to connect connection, to have meaningful experiences, and also arguably more emotional experiences. And so on the right, you see someone who has tried to create perhaps experiences which are surprising, fun, and maybe certainly more memorable. This was a meeting or an installation at a meeting where people sit around in chairs, talk to one another, but they're in the air. Okay, is it effective? Well, I don't know, but it would certainly be something that people would tend to remember, and it would certainly be more of an experience and an emotional experience than just sitting around a table. Now, I tell you, as an aside, I got into this area because I went overseas to China one time, and someone had designed a tour as an experience. It's very interesting. It was a tour of a traditional village. And normally, if you have a tour of a traditional village, you'll wander around and maybe you'll talk to people and you'll see some people spinning or making things. Maybe you'll see the agriculture. But the person who designed this tour was a movie producer. So he saw the tour not as a tour, but as a film that the participants, that the people going to that on that tour were part of. So he wanted to include people in the tour rather than get them to watch. So that's engagement. And if you are engaged, you generally have a more memorable experience. So he designed the first part. It was a woman standing on a boat on a little lake, singing a song, and she was waving goodbye to her husband who had gone away. This was a traditional song, and it was surprising. It was something I hadn't seen before, where instead of just looking at something, I sort of, well, at least I was, there was some sort of engagement. Went on. Another part, a person was playing some music and you could talk to them. Another part was some people washing clothes in the traditional way in a stream and singing songs. But the last part, which they might call the peak experience, the climax of the experience, the tour, was seeing a marriage ceremony. Okay, now I've traveled a lot and I've seen some marriage ceremonies before. They're interesting. You know, you sit at the back, you stand around, someone gets married and then you go away. And I was standing there at the back of the group of people watching. And someone, I'm not sure who, said, "Oh, we need a volunteer." And they grabbed me and I had to get married to a beautiful young girl, huh? And I had to get dressed, and I became part of the marriage ceremony, just being rather than just looking. And rest assured, I can still see that marriage ceremony in my head today. Okay, so what happened? I went from viewing something, not being engaged, to being part of it and feeling emotion. It's quite exciting when you're getting married to a young girl, I tell you. It's especially when you are already married. But and that was quite surprising for me. And you know, I went upstairs, got changed, we came back down. You know, I held this lady's hand, very beautiful. She was dressed, and then we got into a little carriage, and they took us away on our honeymoon. And all of a sudden she said, "Get out," right? I had to leave. But it was an experience. It was an emotional experience that engaged me, stimulated my emotions. I would call it a high arousal emotional experience, and that led to memorability. Okay? So all you got to do, and that's what perhaps millennials want, so all you've got to do is design emotional experiences that engage people in the my sector. Easy. All right? Now, so the millennials, different. Social media is very important. Growing up with the internet, information is available. Perhaps that means the attention span of millennials is less. They know about media, so they're not, you know, they're aware that people are trying to influence them with advertising. That's why third-party marketing through the internet is more useful. But they're interested in novelty and real experiences. They see and are very aware of artificial things, and they want to be doing new, different, and authentic things which they are interested in. Interest is the second part. So when I was standing and looking at that marriage ceremony, I wasn't engaged, or another way of saying that is that I wasn't interested. It was another thing. I'd seen it many times before. It didn't have any novel to me, and it was not something that I was particularly wanting to be involved in. But when you take a person and make them be engaged, their interest changes. Their goals for that particular experience change, and all of a sudden they are more likely to have stronger emotions. So when people talk about authenticity, when people talk about engagement, what they're really talking about with authenticity is something that I want to see. When they're talking about engagement, they're saying something that I'm involved in that's important for me. Okay? So designing experiences is about understanding what people want, what their goals are, and what they have previously seen, so you can give them novelty and engaging them. All right, so you can use neuroscience now in your design of experiences during a my sector. So an experience starts before rather than just during. So you have to get people thinking that they will be engaged, they will have something to do before they arrive, and then after they've left, reinforce the memories that you've created. You have to design experiences to produce emotions. And if you're not, so you can measure the effectiveness of your event by counting the number of smiles or counting the number of people who are going, wow, that's amazing, right? It's not about satisfaction. Satisfaction is part of the product economy. Delight and wow are part of the experience economy. Mm-hmm. You can use different senses. It's not just about seeing things or hearing things, touching, tasting, feeling. All sorts of experiences need to be included if you can. Importantly, don't assume that you understand why the customer's there. I'll show you. I found some examples in the mice industry literature where people say part of the reason people go to a mice meeting is to meet other people. Okay, well, makes perfect sense. So we need to understand that goal and allow people to meet other people in a way which creates engagement and meaningful engagement and leads to an outcome which is emotional. Right? Now, how do you do that? I don't know. That's your job. But you can use novel to increase arousal, and we saw an example of that where you hang people up in the air. That's creating arousal. Is it meeting a person's goal? Well, I'm not sure. Certainly you can use stories and narratives and fantasy, which can increase the way people get involved or engaged, and especially involvement through co-creation. It's not just about seeing something, it's about getting married yourself, right? You're engaged in it. You're co-creating the experience rather than just listening. And when I started looking at all this, this is not new. These are some blogs or websites that you can look at which talk about this stuff. So this idea of experience design and creating purposeful meetings has been discussed already in the literature in a variety of different ways. So the key thing is, so here's this example about goals. I've read somewhere, ask any delegate what they're looking forward to getting out of a conference, their goal. And there's a high chance that meeting new people and expanding their network will be high on the list. Okay, good. So now we have an objective for a meeting, and we're going to use engagement, co-creation, storytelling, narrative, novelty and surprise to create or allow people to achieve that goal better. That's pretty simple. I don't know. That's where you need to now be a little bit creative, like the people here hanging people in the air, to develop the specific design of the experience, but the general principle is easy to understand. That's how experience design and innovation or creativity fit together. There's innovation in the way you have to get to think about and design experiences, and then you need some innovation or creativity in the particular instance of that design. I found some interesting literature. So boothscapes. Often if you're going to a conference or a meeting, there'll be a series of booths. And I gotta say, I've been to many conferences, and there is a table, there's a chair, there's some books or stuff, and it's pretty boring. So how are you going to make your boothscape engaging, emotional, and so on? This paper about design of a goal for socialization, that's the paper Designing Events for Social Interaction. So someone was talking about that 2014, so it's been around for a while. If you want to listen or read some stuff that I've been doing about co-creation of tourism experiences, there's a literature review there that you might want to look at, and some of my students in the past have been looking at the psychology of novelty and how it relates to memorability. So there's been some work that I've been doing in this area. All right, so how am I going for time? When do I finish? Can someone help me? Carolina, where are you?
Stop share, sir. I'm here, Prof.
Oh, good. How long have I got left, do you know?
I think 10:50, 10:35 or 10:30.
Oh, no, so pretty soon.
Yes.
Yes,
You
okay,
more a couple of minutes, Prof.
All right, I'm sorry, I can talk underwater, so thanks for telling me. So competencies are the things that students, they're the knowledge and skills and behavior that allow you to achieve some task, right? Be effective in that task. That's what you're learning to do in doing a course in my sector. And I would argue that you need to think about the competencies that we need for experience design. And there's not been a lot written about this. There's a bit of stuff in the literature, but it comes back to the first step is recognizing the need for innovation and recognizing the need for experiences. Okay, so there you are. Your competencies have been increased by listening to me. But as teaching institutions, perhaps we need to be thinking about how we might build some of this stuff into our teaching. And that's where real world experiences can come in, but also case studies are quite useful as a way of experiential learning. For people who are in industry, I think it's also useful to reflect on your practice. That is, reflect on what you're doing now to see, am I really creating memorable experiences? And that can be useful. And another way is maybe change the way you measure your success. So measure the success of a meeting through emotional reactions rather than satisfaction, percentage satisfaction. Okay, so some references there, and that's me. Hopefully that was interesting. And personally, I find I'm very interested in this area of experience design. And so perhaps in future, if there's anyone online who's interested, I'd be happy to follow up with this area, because I think it's a great area for practice, but also for theoretical paper writing and things. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Noel Scott. We had so much learning today, except that you put me on the spot. But anyway, kidding aside, sir.
No, but Carolina, I did it for a purpose. Because
yeah, I know, neuroscience, sir.
You will remember it, right?
Yes.
And you went from being looking to being engaged. And that's, so I was trying to demonstrate some of the principles, but sorry.
It's okay, Prof. Well, I think our audience really have learned a lot as well. We need more time, I think, next time, sir, for a longer discussion about this. This makes me more interested in neuroscience. It's a new word, I think, for us in the tourism and hospitality industry. But I think with you having topics like psychology of novelty and you have to delight and wow your customers or your visitors, create experience design. These are all the things that we really need right now. And I think these are the things I'll be able to share my students when I get back to the classroom, the virtual classroom. But anyway, that was really a very nice topic, Prof. Scott. We appreciate you sharing all those things to us. Thanks again, sir. Miss Ira?
Yes, Ma'am Carol, indeed, what struck me the most would be the experience economy. We could really share that to our students. So let me read some comments of our participants. So for let's go back to Miss Machi. We have for Miss Machi from Joanne de los Reyes Lobrino. Very timely and great presentation, Miss Machi. Thank you very much. And for Prof. Scott, this comment is from Ms. Zara Cruzado. To fully understand and comprehend the concept of experience economy, I think it is very important to be exposed in any MICE event in the regional, national, and international level. Yes, that's true. So we could benchmark on those events. And also, we will not forget the organizers of this event. We have a comment from Mr. Ramrel Anonuevo. Congratulations po sa inyong DHM and thanks for holding this kind of webinar. And we will not forget, of course, to thank the PWU Multimedia Center headed by Dr. Menchita F. Dumlao. So those are some of the comments and acknowledgement. So just an announcement to all our participants. At the end of the webinar, here's an encouragement for all of you to post your comments and your questions. Several awards will be given to randomly picked participants and of course to the most engaged participants. So please stay tuned until the end for you may be the recipient of our special awards, which remains secret. That's a very special award. So at this time, for the last source of learnings for the day, may we have Ms. Josephine M. Soliman to introduce to us our third speaker.
May I?
Yes, Ma'am Josephine.
Okay. A pleasant morning, everyone. Our next speaker will speak about unleashing the Philippine mice industry, what's in store for 2021 and beyond. He is currently the president of Philippine Association of Convention, Exhibition, Organizers, and Suppliers. He is also the president of Tarsus Corporation, a leading professional events management company that has recently become part of Tarsus Group of London, organizing some of the biggest events in the country. Its biggest show includes WOFEX, or World Food Expo, the Philippine Culinary Cup, and Hotel Show. He is also the publisher behind the World Food magazine. He is also the publisher behind the World Food magazine. He is also a professional mechanical engineer and president of Baron Engineering Supplies, an industrial refrigeration company with operations nationwide. Let us all welcome our resource speaker, Mr. Joel P. Pascual.
Hello, hi. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Hi. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I am happy that you've allocated this entire morning for the business of mice. For a long time, we felt that we were an industry that nobody was paying attention to, and we're very happy together with the DOT and the TPB that they have adopted the mice industry and have supported it, so that now a lot of people are finally paying attention to it and finding the importance of mice. And so I thank you. I thank PWU and the rest of the organizers for particularly putting importance in the industry. Now, let me go to my presentation. Okay. Please tell me if you can see my screen.
We can see, sir.
Okay. So what do meetings, incentives, and conventions and exhibitions have in common? The one thing that they really have in common is the word business. It is done by business for business purposes. No? Some of you might ask, incentives, nagbabakasyon lang naman yan. They're just having vacations. But it really is actually a tool by which companies engage their sales team or management team to produce to have higher outputs in terms of the operation. So all of this, MICE, are all bound by the concept of business. Thereby, MICE is actually very important in the sense that it actually impacts both trade and tourism. There's a very high input in terms of its contribution to trade and travel. It is a very good catalyst for economic activity. That is why in a lot of the first world countries, MICE has always been a priority. As I said, I'm very happy that the current government has actually put it as part of a priority product, and recognizing that MICE is indeed an important factor in moving the industries along. However, when the pandemic hit us, this is actually what we all in the industry look like. No, we were lost. We didn't know what to do. For the first 2 months, we didn't know whether to move forward or to stay still. It was really a very sad endeavor for us to know what lies ahead. Ang hirap isipin eh. It was very hard to think. This is something we cannot. We didn't really know if there was a solution in the near future, if we can move ahead. But so we regrouped. We decided that we should pick up the pieces and rebuild, and the industry, specifically Paseos, have decided that we will fight back. Now, how are we fighting back? I'd like to introduce a few keywords with which we came about this fighting back. One is repurpose. The first thing that we did actually, after realizing that we cannot run away from the pandemic, but we have to live with it, was that we had to look at what we had. the resources we had on hand. Ano ba what do we have na pwede nating magamit to survive, to at least survive? So let me use example some of our members who are in facilities. Let's take an example as SMX. SMX decided na, hey, there are no conventions, there are no exhibitions allowed. What can we do? What they did was that they looked at the facilities and said, hey, we already have kitchens. Let's rent out the kitchens. That's why SMX sold kitchens. We have a lot of space. So let us rent the space as studios. So yung SMX, the convention center, has suddenly become a studio. That is a way of coping with something, with a problem. No? They are creating new opportunities for them. In terms of other facilities like hotels, they became DOH accredited hotels. At least may business pa sila. They continue to have business even with the pandemic, even if there are no tourists. They at least have people occupying the rooms. World Trade Center also became a quarantine hotel. A lot of hotels, this in example is a Conrad, the one on the right. It is Conrad Hotel. They continue to offer mice, wherein they will deliver the food packages as shown in the picture to assimilate the experience that there is in face-to-face. So people did not stop. People did not just give up. Okay. Kanina yung facilities, but we also had to repurpose the skills. We had to look at our people. What skills do our people have now that will be relevant in coping with the pandemic? In fact, I had to tell my people, what are your core skills? Selling. A lot of my people are selling. And then I told them, unfortunately, the skill that you have now has become irrelevant because of the pandemic, because we had nothing to sell. Because we were not allowed to do mice. And so I told them, learn new skills. What can we do to make ourselves relevant online? Okay, so all of a sudden my people had to learn how to do virtual, how to do Zoom, how to do all of that. They had to learn technical skills. They had to learn apps, OBS. They had to learn how to shoot, okay, to handle a camera, to do scripts. I had to learn how to host, okay. The skills that we had before were no longer relevant, so we had to learn new skills. Now, we also had to retool, meaning what we had was no longer enough. When we took stock of everything that we had, of all of our resources, we knew that we had to add on new things to our weaponry, to our pantry, so that we can compete in the virtual world. So what did we do? We learned new platforms and new skills. Obviously, Zoom, okay? We engaged StreamYard, okay? As I said, my people had to learn skills, as in shooting. We had to learn how to create studios. A lot of things that we never really did before. So the challenge to them that I said was that it's either you learn this or I would have to let you go. My choice as a businessman, as a business owner, was to let go of all of my people who no longer had relevant skills, or to push them to learn new skills so that I can keep them employed within the family. And I am happy that they took up to the challenge and upgraded their skills. They learned new skills during the lockdown. We also knew that we had an audience we had to re-engage. We had, all of us event organizers had audiences, had communities, had industries that we were catering to. The pandemic sort of cut our engagement with them, so we had to find a way, how do we now get back to them? And so we had to develop new formats. A lot of us, as I said, had to go online. So we created a lot of e-newsletters, virtual meetings, etc. We also had to create new avenues. One of our members are now very heavily into podcasts, and they're actually rating even in Apple Podcasts. No? They are rating worldwide. So new avenues that they never even considered before have become new ways of reaching out and re-engaging their markets. And then now that we have re-engaged our market, we have managed to talk to them and offer them new products. We were now in the process of recovering. What do I mean by recovering? Recovering their trust in our name, recovering their trust in our product, and recovering their confidence that we can still be of service to their industry. How did we do that? For us in particular, for PepTarsus, we recovered by giving away free webinars for the first maybe four months of the pandemic. All we did was come out with one free webinar after another. Tuloy-tuloy lang, no? We infused the net with a lot of materials which served two masters. The first master was for our market to know that we still exist and that we can still be relevant and we can create an audience for their products and services. And the secondary motivation for us to do all of this was for my people to become experts, because they had to constantly have to practice creating webinars, creating online content, marketing the online content to a bigger market. I had to become confident that we were already experts before I can even offer our services for a fee. And in the recovery, we found out that new skills actually created new markets. Okay, our new skills for our company now allowed us to bid for other projects, and we found out that some of our clients who just used to get booths for our World Food Expo suddenly told us, okay, I have a budget. Can you now create an advertising campaign for me? And so now our company has actually evolved. We have become an advertising company. And we also have learned to bid for projects under PhilJEP, something we never did before. We are now bidding also for government projects. So new skills actually open new opportunities for us. And then when we did that, we also knew that, okay, we've developed new skills, we've developed new markets, but what about our old dependable markets? What about our old dependable skills? Ano ba yung skills namin? What are our skills as MICE organizers? Of course, we had conventions and exhibitions. What do we do with that? And so we said, it is time for us to reimagine them. Okay? We reimagined our conferences. And very early on, some of our members already did virtual conferences. What we're doing now here with PWU is an example of a conference. And I'm very happy that a lot of people are doing it. And for a lot of us MICE organizers, it offered us actually a wider audience, a wider reach. Okay, sabi kanina when it was being introduced, there was more than 1,000 confirmed attendees, and I do hope it materializes. But that really is the game now. This landscape of going virtual has actually erased borders. It actually has opened up a lot of other opportunities for MICE organizers. Now, for me particularly, exhibitions is my forte. So what did we do? We also had to reimagine exhibitions. And I'm very happy that some of our members have already done it successfully, some not so much. It really is a lot of learning curve. For us in PepTarsus, we took our time. We wanted to see what the others will do before we launch into it. And then finally this March, we are actually launching into our own virtual expo. The virtual expo looks so much different than what it used to be. This is what our virtual expo will look like. It's 3D, it's all online. We are trying to give the same kind of experience as can be had before, but no face-to-face. Everything is online. So this is what to expect come end of March. Okay, these are booths. If any of you know World Food Expo or have been to WOFEX, this is the new WOFEX. This is the new WOFEX this end of March. And we are hoping that we can still deliver the same kind of excitement, although it will be a challenge. In fact, even to our exhibitors, we tell them that we will be on an experimental mode together. We will be doing this together. we are lowering their expectations because what we're telling them is that what we want from you is an honest feedback, so that when we do this again, we would have learned from all the mistakes that we have done from this launching year. So maybe this is the time for me to do a little commercial. All right, come end of March, please do visit Wolfix Spring, and then come August, we'll be doing a hybrid. I'll talk about it a little bit later. Okay. Now we also had to reimagine the way we were selling. You know, I always like to say this: before the pandemic, I never bought anything online. I was not a believer of e-commerce, but now we had to pivot. A lot of us is to pivot. So a lot of us MICE organizers now have online stores. We are engaging on the online store simply because that's the only way, that's really a good way of getting people to buy products and services. All right, so we now have our own online store because a lot of people are already used to buying online. Okay, now, when the pandemic struck us, we as MICE organizers had a choice, as I said. We can either, let it beat us, or we can look at it at another way. We can look at it as problems that are opportunities in workloads, right? And that is exactly what we did. What happened now is that during what the lockdown did for a MICE organizer like myself is that we actually were able to develop new products. When things go back to normal and we are able to go back to our old ways of doing business, what we end up now are two revenue streams. Dalawa na yung pinagkakakitaan namin, yung virtual and yung physical. Okay? So that is actually what we are very proud of, that when things get back to normal, we actually are very hopeful that we can do a lot better. Now, we are resolute. We in MICE have to be resolute that MICE will make a strong comeback, that conferences and exhibitions will look like this in the future, because there is absolutely no replacement to the face-to-face. The COO of TPB mentioned it earlier, that even as good as we can do our virtual events, there is still that missing ingredient, that warm handshake, that being able to see the whole body language of the person you're talking to, the warmth of an embrace, the laughter that you share. There is no replacement in terms of the virtual. So even if we as event organizer try to be experts in the virtual world, we will never lose sight of the fact that we will continue to pray and be resolute that the face-to-face will come back. How do we do that? By reassuring the public. We want to reassure the public that we can have safe events. Okay? Some of the venues are actually doing this. They are pushing the agenda, telling the industries that, hey, we are safe spaces. You can do safe events in our location, in our venues. As a result, there have been several rebooting happening around the metro. Enchanted Kingdom, which is a member of MICE, is now already open. Although the age limitation is smaller, all right, at least it is now. I was there maybe 3 weeks ago, and the fun is still there. A member of ours has been doing bazaars in SM Trade in Mega Mall, and they have been doing well. And just this end of January, the first real trade show happened in SMX. It's Manila Commercial Vehicle Show. It's small, but at least it gave us an inkling of what can happen in the future. As of now, this is MICE. This is MICE in our current situation. It's very, very small. The engagement is very, very small. The profits that we have now in the efforts that we're doing is very small compared to what we used to enjoy before. But that does not mean that we are not hopeful. So what can we hope for in 2021 and beyond? Okay, as the COO mentioned earlier, a lot of us MICE organizers, not only in the Philippines, but worldwide, are a little bit bullish that a lot can already happen in the third quarter or fourth quarter of 2021. We are keeping our fingers crossed that the vaccines will come here quickly, that it will be efficient, and that no more variants of the virus will come up. We're hoping that there will be confidence in the industry and that the government will allow more MICE to happen. They should. I always say this, and I know the COO hears me talk about this a lot. Because MICE, as against all other events, the main differential is the word control. In MICE, there is control. We know who will attend, what they will do, what they are there for, where exactly they will go, they will proceed, they will sit down, okay, when they will be there, and how long they will be there. We can tell them, okay, you're only here for 30 minutes, it's time for you to exit. It's highly controllable. That is why MICE should be an entry point to normalizing events in the Philippines. Another key difference is that we are ready. As the ad of COO of the DOT TPB showed us, we are ready. Paseos on its part was very proactive. When the pandemic happened, we immediately crafted our own hygiene and safety protocols, submitted it to the DOT, and we're very happy that they embraced it. And as a result, COVID safety measures have been already put in place. It is approved by IATF, by DOT TPB, and it's going to be, and it's now the Bible. It is now made available to all the venues, hotels, exhibition centers, etc. I'm not going to discuss this in full because it's public documents. I'm sure even in your classes, you do this, all of this. But suffice to say, as the ad of DOT says, we are ready, okay? Now, why is control better for MICE travelers? Again, this is not to put down the leisure traveler, but to push up the value of MICE travelers. Leisure travelers travel because they want a sense of freedom, okay? A MICE traveler is just going from one set of rules to another. When you attend a conference, a symposium, or an exhibition, you know that you will be subjected to its own set of rules. Just like when you are in your office, you are just going from one box of rules, one set of rules to another. Thereby, the MICE traveler is more set to follow MICE safety protocols. In terms of data disclosure, there is lower incentive for leisure traveler as against MICE traveler because full data disclosure is critical for registration to finalize your MICE participation. For leisure traveler, yes, a lot of people, a lot of very responsible people do it, but there are also a lot of people that are not comfortable giving away their personal data just to every establishment that they go to. The MICE traveler, the leisure traveler is very eager to explore. Even if you put them in a bubble, they are excited to go to a new restaurant that's not part of the itinerary, to go to that park that is not part of the itinerary, okay, to go to this museum that is not part of the itinerary. However, a MICE traveler has a very regimented itinerary, okay? Alam niya kung saan siya pupunta, he knows exactly where he will go. In terms of the leisure traveler, there is actually low accountability because they are not part of a group. Unlike a MICE traveler, normally part of a corporation or part of an association or part of a travel group, there is high accountability. You really care about the people that are your friends, okay? Leisure traveler affects travel only, very minimal trade, while a MICE traveler is very heavy on affecting both travel and trade. Okay, and then finally, incidence of a report is less likely kasi if a leisure traveler goes home already, most probably the contact tracing will be harder, or there's very little incentive to do it. While in a MICE traveler, because of the communal spirit, there is a high incentive to report any incidents. Now, in rebooting for 2021 and beyond, the word mentioned by the two speakers earlier is hybrid. This is really where we will now have to transition. For the most of 2020 and for the first half of 2021, most of the MICE organizers will be online. But come, like for myself specifically, WOFEX, the second edition of WOFEX in August will be full hybrid, meaning we will be in World Trade Center, we will be in SMX Convention Center, and we will be in the virtual landscape. We will have both, we will be doing both. Hopefully that happens, but the problem is we will be doing all of that in a smaller spectrum because of all the limitations that IATF has been giving, which we understand. It has to happen. However, as I said, we're still hopeful that once everything gets back to normal, those big ticketed events, like we have to, WOFEX is the biggest food show in the Philippines. And we attract more than 50,000 people every year during that edition. And we hope that can come back soon. That is our bread and butter. That is what gives Pep Tarsus the credibility that we have today. And hopefully we can come back to it soon. So we are hopeful. One final we will remain resilient. The MICE industry would have to be resilient because we cannot allow the industry to die, because we are a key to the country's recovery. The MICE industry is an important key for the Philippines to get back on its feet. Because we understand that no matter the circumstance, the MICE industry has to have a lot of faith. We have to put up a good fight because we know that we can take control of our future. Maraming salamat po, and thank you for listening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joel Pascual. We will fight back, sir, in the big event.
Yay!
Coming soon. We are
Yes, sir.
excited to see the virtual expo. You mentioned this coming March.
Yes,
yes. Thanks for that. So 2 words are fighting back. That's really what struck me the most. And I think as Filipinos, we're good at that. We are resilient. And hopefully, very, very soon, we really can have that big event. Thanks so much again, sir.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Ira.
Yes, Ma'am Carol, truly, we always find ways to meet and be together, either physically or virtually. So let me read some of our comments. So this is from Mr. Patrick Soniega. He said that the online classes and online requirements helped me to improve my skills and become more productive with just myself. I have learned how to edit videos that I have never learned before, and now I am interested in how my video editing skills is more developed like a pro. I also explore what can we do on the internet that can be useful for the future. Great example is e-commerce. So we could really see that this pandemic, our situation right now, has a lot of positive aspect. Another comment is from Mr. George Argonza. This goes to all of our speakers. Speakers are really experts in this field. They share their knowledge in a smooth way, and MICE is very interesting. We can also apply all the knowledge we gained this coming semester. So those are the comments from our participants. And to our 1,209 participants, just keep posting your questions because in a while we will be having our open forum. So after all the knowledge we have been fed and have digested today, we would like to know what are your thoughts through a poll. So this is our last poll to all our participants, to all our 1,209 participants from the 32 schools. And also we have participants from different tourism organizations and tourism stakeholders. So here is the question for our third poll. Do you think the MICE industry will bounce back to pre-COVID conditions? So we have 4 choices. You just type in A, B, C, or D. So A, if your answer is no, MICE industry is already a sunset industry or palubog na. B, if your answer is it will take 2 to 3 years before it bounces back. C, people will find ways to meet and adjust to new normal. And B, it will have a strong comeback very soon with more creative innovations. So to all our participants, keep on typing in your answers for this question. Again, the question is, do you think the MICE industry will bounce back to pre-COVID conditions?
I'll go for D, Ma'am Ira.
Yeah, me too, ma'am. Just like
we're
what Sir, yes, just like what Sir Pascual said, we will have a strong comeback. The MICE industry will have a strong comeback. So let's wait for the result of the poll. While waiting, let me read another comment from our participant from Nel Amador. With this webinar, I felt relief and I learned that we students, so this is from a student, should not worry and despair because our industry does not lose hope. There are people, just like our speakers, who are working to do everything they can to make sure that we can adapt to this pandemic and that the MICE industry will be more sustainable and ready for a new and more challenging future. 100% para sa recitation ni Ms. Nel Amador. So another comment is from Ms. Roanne Feliz Magbitang. I would thank all of the speakers for inspiring us and sharing their experiences with us in this webinar. Truly, our speakers, all of our speakers are equally talented and equally knowledgeable on their craft. So let me see. So medyo may tie tayo. So poll number 3 natin, Miss Carol.
Ano na bang nanguna, Ma'am Ira?
Well, we have a very positive feedback for our poll. So the winner for our poll, the choices that are considered the winners for our poll are C and D. So our participants' answers were, people will find ways to meet and adjust to new normal, and maybe those are the hybrid events. And D, tama tayo, Miss Carol. It will have a strong comeback very soon with more creative innovations. So I can see how big the influence our resource speakers made to the decision-making of our participants. So wait, we are not yet done. Because of this moment, I hope you have typed in your questions already in our chat box to be answered by our equally intelligent speakers. And to facilitate the open forum, we have Mr. Arnold and Miss Carol. Sir Arnold, Miss Carol?
Yes,
Hi,
good
Sir
morning.
Arnold. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Miss Carol and Miss Ira. Thank you very much. I think we have a lot of questions posted. So let's get the ball rolling.
Go ahead, sir. I think our speakers are more than willing to answer those questions.
Yes, even me, I'm also excited to throw questions for them. Okay, let's start. So the first question, I think it's addressed to Atty. Allones. The question is, how will the Philippine MICE industry pivot in the new normal? How could academic institutions collaborate with the Philippine Tourism Promotions Board?
Parang hirap sagutin yan, ano?
Thank you very much for the question, and mahirap sagutin yung first part na how will we pivot, because that means I have to summarize the what Joel shared and what Professor Scott and what sino yung isa? Miss
Machi.
Si Maji, kayo naman. Pinag-lecture na yung tatlong experts, tapos masasummarize sa atin. No? But suffice it to say that I think, as I closed earlier, I mentioned that perspective is important. We always have to have a sense of optimism, no? In terms of the perspective. There are changes, there are challenges, but as Joel shared, nakita nyo how they adapted to the requirements, and so now they have repurposed, they have reskilled, and they have found new relevance. No? So in the same way, for the government side, we continuously visit and revisit policies. Joel knows this, in a participative and inclusive manner. We want our policies to be at pace with the changes that happen. So like before math was not altogether allowed. As we evolved, it was allowed. Then there were adjustments made, and now we have a new advocacy to let standalone venues to be allowed. So it's a journey, and I think it's important, as I mentioned, to keep an open and optimist perspective to these changes and developments. And I think the more important question I would like to address is the second part, which asks how you and the academic sector can help.
Yeah, collaborate.
Yes. Hoy, marami kaya kayong oras mag-research. So, we need to have a data-driven, informed decision-making process. So, engage government, engage the private sector. I know you have courses on research, on this kinds of action and policy research to be done. Let your research be relevant to the real world, because that is where true education happens. Di ba? Yung mga pa-homework, group study, tapos compliance lang pala. Hindi naman pala magagamit sa totoong buhay. So bridge the learning environment to the needs of the world so that you can always be relevant. And as I said, Secretary Puyat is keen on pushing for an inclusive, participative volunteerism program. We will definitely get back to PWU because with your interest, I look forward to having you as a partner moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Allones. We will be always part of that endeavor of the Department of Tourism. So, next question is addressed to Ms. Machi. The question is, what are the best practices to make the MICE industry sustainable beyond digitalization?
Hi, good morning again, everyone. I believe incorporating digitalization on the MICE industries. Right now, we have a lot of collaborative efforts that have been developing, and also even the online resource materials are being developed to aid and also have a better experience in a virtual journey in the MICE industry. So I hope I was able to answer that question.
Thank you, Ms. Machi. Next question is addressed to Professor Scott. The question is, how satisfaction can be expressed, especially this pandemic, for MICE industry?
Okay, thank you. So the question was, how can satisfaction be expressed during COVID for the MICE industry? Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Well, I think that's a very good question. It's a hard question. Let me think about it. Well, satisfaction. So people during COVID are basically concerned about their health. And I don't know if they really understand how their health, you know, you can't really tell how your health is being affected. All you can do is rely on government advice and on procedures which you might see around you. And I think one of our previous speakers was also showing that even if you have procedures, your customers may not actually see them. So they won't know what's happening in the kitchen. They won't know what's happening in the cleaning regimes when they're not in the room. So if you want to tell people that you are dealing with COVID in a responsible way and therefore make them satisfied, then you need to make sure you tell them. And this is where all the principles that you might normally use can be applied. So you might, in some countries, they have a COVID safe brand. So they actually have a sticker or something that you put on your windows to tell people that they are that you are dealing with COVID in a responsible way and that you meet certain guidelines. Another thing that you can do is you can make it obvious to people. So people, in some hotels, for example, they are using atomizers to spray mist with disinfectant in it on people's shoes and clothing. So the more you can, of course, be responsible and have the procedures in place, but then even more communicate that to your customers, both before they arrive and during and after, then I think that will improve satisfaction. Hopefully that's just some thoughts on the top of my head. But there are lots of, in this sort of area, you know, in Australia, for example, we have, and I'm sure in the Philippines as well, the government has got lots of procedures and requirements for various sectors of the tourism and hospitality industry and so on. And so it's about meeting those, but then telling people about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Scott. And the next question is addressed to Mr. Pascual. And the question is, in what ways or how can we students contribute to sustainable future of MICE industry? That is from Miss Ella de Guzman.
Okay. To me, the COO has already laid the foundation for my answer. You guys have a lot of time to research. You know what's good with the students now? Us as event organizers are actually our expertise in the, like I've been in the industry for 20 years. It has been leveled. You can now compete effectively with me as long as you are very good at the virtual technologies and skills, because we just had to learn it as well. It is new even to experts like us in the physical world. In the virtual world, we're all the same. We're all in the same boat. So what I'm saying here is that maybe your fresh minds, your fresh ideas is what the industry needs. I, for one, will not tell you I'm an expert in the virtual, because I'm a baby also when it comes to the virtual landscape. A lot of you are technology, born with technology. You are technology natives, okay? My generation, we had to learn it. A lot of you guys were born with it. So you probably will be a lot better than myself and a lot of other event organizers. So it's a challenge I'm putting forward to you. You do not need to look at us, maybe develop new markets given the current landscape. Maybe you can hit on even a better, more profitable business model than what we're doing now. So the challenge is be creative. Use your innate skills.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of these new technology natives, this question is addressed to Professor Scott. I think this is mother, or maybe. The question is, how can we take advantage of new technology in providing more memorable experiences when most millennials are more immersed with technology in more different ways, like being too caught in games all day, etc., that they are losing sight of the things in front of them, such as cultures being preserved and the knowledges they could obtain from attending webinars and conferences such as this. So this is, I think, from Gian Tanzon.
Okay. Well, thank you. Another hard question, but I'll do my best. Ultimately, what I was saying is that there are two main things to think about to answer that question in general. The first one is people's goals. That is their interest and and what they want to do. Why will they attend? Now, what you've just said is that some young people don't see the relevance of a face-to-face meeting because they can do this thing online. So you have to address that in some way. You either say, okay, well, I'm going to increase the relevance of a meeting for people. What is it that they can't do online and that will help them to achieve their goal? Sure, socialization. If socialization is part of the issue, it is true that people will be able to be socialized, will have more meaningful socialization experiences in face-to-face. That's what our previous speaker was saying, that, you know, and there's not a lot of reasons for that. They are that when you shake a person's hand, it's more immediate. When you I hate, please, I'm going to say something silly, but it's true. When you smell a person, you actually may not be aware that you're doing it, but people exchange pheromones when they are talking to another person. And it's the, you know, so there have been tests where they've had a lot of couples and they just get them to sweat. I'm sorry, this is getting a little bit off track, but it's part of the reason to illustrate the point. So they get people to sweat into a t-shirt, and then they ask another person to smell that t-shirt and tell the experimenter if they like it or not, if they like that person. And that comes from things that are programmed into our brain and our body, which we're not aware of. They're called pheromones and all sorts of reactions. So that's another thing that happens face-to-face that you can't do through online. And there's lots of these things. So it's about understanding exactly why people are going to a conference or not going. What are the relative advantages of online versus face-to-face? And then looking at the advantages and making them more meaningful to people. So that's the first thing, that's meeting people's goals. The second one is a novelty. So perhaps one of the reasons why younger people are not going is because they're so used to conferences, or they've had lots of experiences, so therefore you have to reinvent it in some way. That's where creativity and surprise come in, and communicating that to people somehow before they arrive. So it's not anything different from any other product design, marketing, experience design process. It's if you're having problems and difficulty, it means you don't know enough about your customer.
Okay, Thank you very much, Professor Scott. There is another question here. I think anybody could answer this question. As leaders of different tourism sectors, what makes you keep on inspiring your people in coping up with this pandemic?
Oh, let me try to answer that. As a businessman, I'd have to admit that the pandemic has learned us to be selfless. All right, we exist not so much for profit, but for us to keep our people employed. The revenues that we get now does not even live up to our expenses, but we continue so that we can keep the industry afloat. There are not that many players in MICE, and if one or two of us dies, the industry will suffer as a whole. So we are trying to survive. It's really more survival than it is about profit. In fact, we've forgotten profit. We just have to continue trying to evolve. And if profit follows in the near future, that would just be icing on the cake. But for now, what's more important to us are our employees. That's really what keeps us awake at night.
So we got the perspective from the businessman. Yeah. So let's have a new perspective from the government sector, Attorney Allones.
This sounds like the final round of questions for Miss Universe 2021. Di ba, Joel? Oo. Buti na lang nag-change na ako ng outfit, tsaka red lipstick na ako ngayon. Arnold, ang gagaling naman ng mga estudyante ng PWU. Ang hirap-hirap na mga tanong. Oo, pwede bang runner-up na lang ako ni Joel? I'm sorry, Professor Scott. I was talking in Filipino, but I was saying that this sounds like the final round of questions for the Miss Universe 2021, and that I'm willing to yield to Joel and just be a runner-up. No, that's really personally, and I'm. This is really my core business, so to speak. Now, if I were a businessman like Joel, if I'm a business person, my core business is growing leaders in the government. I've spent 12 and a half years of my career at the Career Executive Service precisely doing that. And this is so tough a question because it really calls for authenticity. And that is where my answer also starts. How do you inspire the team and others and your even stakeholders in the sector, in the economy? So personally, it really begins with authenticity, having a mastery of what you know, what you don't know, what are your limits, and so you stay humble. Like I ask for my stuff, Joel will attest to you that I ask him, I consult him, and then if there are things not clear to me, I seek clarification, and then if there are things I'm not happy with, I seek common ground. Diba, Joel? Remember our conversation in the beach? So, and I look for the right venue, like for things that are tough to discuss, you look for a beach or a conducive environment. And then as a leader, it's very difficult to inspire when you yourself is in despair. So you have to take care of yourself. And I say that with much, baka I'm almost teary-eyed. I say that with a lot of sincerity because we're all human. So I'm so chikadora. I like having friends around, and it's tough not to meet with your friends. No? Yeah. And then you lose friends whom you haven't seen and whom you didn't see in their funeral, and because of all of this stuff. So you have to be authentic, have the humility to share the service. And I would also say, as I said, repeat that you have to take care of yourself because you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your cup has to be full, and that has to be filled with authenticity, sincerity, humility, and always constantly knowing that this is a shared mission. As Joel said, this is not about money. I tell TPB and I ask them, who are we serving? This is the first time in TPB's existence that I launched a weekly members chat where we have a conversation with our members, because conversation is important. So you have to engage, and you have to engage in a very friendly way. So thank you. I hope I get the crown.
Well said. Very well said, Attorney Allones. I've known Attorney Allones for so many years because she has been our speaker here in CHED Region 1, and I know she's been with Dr. Cherry Melan and Cheta Diego, inviting her for so many times. Yeah, I know that there is humility and sincerity in everything that you do.
Yeah.
So we have got the thought from the government sector. So I think it's now high time to get the thought from the education sector. Professor Scott.
Well, thank you. And look, the two previous speakers, I think, have touched upon some of the key issues. I would just say what they said, but in a slightly different way. So I think if you're dealing with other people, you have to communicate to them your interest and your excitement and your other characteristics, humility, sincerity, and so on. Now, the point is that that's not something you do logically. That's not, you know, I am a manager, I am sincere. It doesn't happen that way. It's about dealing with people. And people respond, as I said, better to emotion than to logic. So if you're talking to someone, we did a study of success factors for small business operators on the Gold Coast. And the thing that was universal for them was passion. The ability to communicate their interest and sincere wishes that the customer has a good time and that their business succeeds. So if you can display passion to a person, then it will certainly help you in your success over time. And I'd encourage all students to think about that. So you're thinking about it not as, it's exactly what Joel and Maria said. They're using words like engagement, authenticity. These are valued words. These are words which are about not just good or bad, but you're putting some of yourself in it. That's what I call passion. So that's what I'd suggest. I'm being fed. It's lunchtime here, and so my daughter has just given me some food. But anyway, no, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Scott. And we have the last speaker's thought, Ms. Machi, regarding the question.
Hi, good morning again. I know it's almost time, so I'll be very brief. In my previous career development presentations, this is actually the things that we are addressing right now. How to keep the productivity of our workforce, or even us as individuals, because right now majority are working and being from home. So if I may just pull out some quick examples, so just make it brief. The 5 approaches that I usually discuss is yung self-awareness is more important than ever. And looking after your well-being as well. And right now, because of the digitalization, communication is more fundamental. And enhancing actually the credentials or I would say enhancing the skills of your workforce or your educators or your students, so we could be or stay positive when it comes to setting our mindsets. And what I always say is to be becoming a lifelong learner. So that would help us be more motivated. Will also give us a sense of purpose in life. Yun po. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miss Machi. We have asked our speakers this morning, Miss Carol. I think we don't have enough time to ask all these questions.
Yes, sir. I think there's a lot more, but I hope in one way or another we are able to answer the Miss Universe question already. I was touched by Atty. really a while ago. I feel the sincerity from her heart, probably because I also have bad experiences with this, what's happening right now. But anyway, let's all just feel good today. And I think we're approaching at the latter part of the program. Miss Ira?
Yes, Ma'am Carol. It's true, Sir Arnold, there are still a lot of questions. So for our participants who still have a lot of questions, you can email your questions in the email address that is included in the poster of the event. And we will ask our speakers to answer it in their most convenient time. Indeed, our resource speakers have mastered their crafts in the MICE industry. At this time, we have come to the part of the program where we congruously recognize our resource speakers through the giving of tokens and certificates of appreciation. May we have Dr. Cristina and Caluza to read the citation, and also Mr. Arnold B. Ancheta for the awarding.
Okay, good morning once again. I'd like to thank our speakers for their wonderful inputs for this morning. So I would like to give the certificate of appreciation. May I read the citation? Philippine Women's University, Manila Campus, School of Hospitality Management Graduate School, present the certificate of appreciation to Ms. Margarita B. Borja for sharing her insights and times and expertise as guest speaker in the webinar entitled Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future, given the 6th day of February 2021, Philippine Women's University, Taft Avenue, Manila, Philippines. Thank you, Ms. Machi.
Thank you very much, Doc Bams. Thank you very much, Philippine Women's University.
Thank you. Likewise, I would like to read the citation. Philippine Women's University School of Hospitality Management Graduate School present the certificate of appreciation to Professor Noel Scott for sharing his time and expertise as guest speaker in the webinar entitled Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future, given the 6th day of February 2021, Philippine Women's University, Taft Avenue, Philippines. Thank you very much, Professor Noel Scott.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful. Appreciate it.
Okay. So may I also read the citation? Philippine Women's University School of Hospitality Management Graduate School present the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Joel B. Pascual for sharing his time and expertise as guest speaker in the webinar entitled Unboxing the MICE Industry Towards a Sustainable Future, given the 6th day of February 2021, Philippine Women's University, Taft Avenue, Manila, Philippines, signed by Arnold B. Ancheta, Events Chair, yours truly, the Faculty Coordinator, and our Dean of the School of Hospitality Management, Dr. Eframuel Jose L. Abellana. Thank you very much, Mr. Joel B. Pascual.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
May I invite everyone to open or activate your camera for a photo opportunity? Well, you know, as Filipinos, we are known of having the urge to collect memories through photos, and this pandemic will not hinder that habit. Thank you very much to all our speakers. And again, thank you to our sponsors, JRPA Travel Services. We are very much aware to our speakers that your schedules are all jam-packed, and you really took the time and effort to be with us today and share your experiences and knowledge. And finally, after everything that has been said, to give us a synthesis of what today's learnings, we have Miss Maria Rodora, Austria.
Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, we'd like to thank again our distinguished keynote speaker and our featured guest speakers for their interesting, informative, insightful, and passionate messages. No, it's quite an experience also being in this webinar. Hopefully, the synthesis will do justice in summarizing what they discussed this morning. Attorney Allones stressed on the importance of MICE to our economy, tourism, and overall positive image of the country. And she also gave a fearless forecast and trends. Although our industry is down at the moment, she foresees that most events will return, albeit in a hybrid format. She gave us a sneak preview or a sneak peek of three of DOT's strategic directions, namely smart tourism, which undertakes digitalization in the planning, execution, and marketing of events. 2, cultivating partnerships with stakeholders and customers in jointly conducting promotions and marketing activities. And 3, the Safe Bangon Turismo, a rollout of the Bounce Back PH tourism program to reestablish the Philippines as a preferred destination for identified customer interests. Her parting words were a challenge for us to see things in a different perspective so that we can act and move forward in further developing the MICE industry. Congratulations to DOT TTB for the proactive thrusts and activities to bring back the entire tourism industry to its vibrant life. Now, for Ms. Machi's talk, she focused on the concept of sustainability as it is practiced by hotels and restaurants, and how the pandemic has reshaped consumer behavior and affected the service industry's sustainability effort. She gave valuable inputs and examples on how digital solutions improve sustainability in these times. Let us also remember her parting words that as individuals and future hospitality and tourism practitioners, we have an important part to play. To quote, "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you would want to make." Now, when old ideas do not seem to work well in the new normal environment that we live in, direct from Queensland, the Sunshine State of Australia, Professor Scott shared with us an extensive, valuable insight on the experience economy and how important it is to develop competencies to create or design more authentic, innovative, emotional wow experiences for MICE attendees. In an era where people pay for experience, it is important that we learn how to address these needs of the market with the aid of technology and neuroscience to create more novel and meaningful engagements. And then finally, from the private sector, Mr. Pascual shared with us what Paseos has been actively doing to revive the MICE industry. Being a catalyst of economic activity, it is imperative that they fight back from the ravages of the pandemic. They are bravely going through the couple of R's, no? Repurposing facilities and skills, re-engaging through new formats and avenues, recovering, by learning new skills and opening up new markets and opportunities, reimagining the formats of conferences and exhibitions, and marketing of products and services. And then it's also important that they are being resolute in rebooting the operations, in moving forward, while at the same time reassuring the market of its safe reopening through hybrid events. But of course, for the meantime, we are still hopeful that the big events will come back hopefully soon. But most importantly, he said that the MICE industry is strongly resilient, okay? Fighting back to ensure that the industry bounces back and helps the industry, or rather the country, get back to its feet. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Like a gift or a package from Lazada or Shopee, our speakers were able to thoroughly unbox, unpack, and give us a clearer picture of the future of the MICE industry and how we are to respond to the changes and challenges. There is indeed a lot of work to be done for both the industry and the academe, but with a positive and resilient mindset, ownership of the problems, collaboration, and active engagement among the different stakeholders, the tourism, hospitality, and MICE industry will remain sustainable for many years to come. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maria Rodora. Your insights of today's webinar has brought us a clearer perspective of what has happened and what's up ahead in the MICE industry. Speaking of what's up ahead, I think it's time to fulfill our promise of giving out special awards. So starting with the participants who were randomly picked by our organizers using the electronic raffle app. So we have here 5 participants who will be able to receive a 100 peso load. So starting with Ms. Nell May Amador from Sariaya, Quezon. Congratulations, Ms. Nell. Next, we have Alwin Jose Atty of Cainta, Rizal. And then our third recipient of the special award is Mr. Joey Caballos of Ilocos from Region 1, Sir Arnold. Next, to the next region, from CAR, from Baguio City, Mr. Emmanuel Pocal. And our last recipient for the raffle draw is Miss Franny Bellido from Binangonan, Rizal. So it's your lucky day today. It's our 5 participants and 5 winners. Now let's move on to the next set of awardees, the most engaged participants. Ito po yung mga best in recitation with their comments and questions and are actively participating in our webinar for today. So starting with Ms. Roan Feliz Magbitang. Congratulations, Ma'am Roan. With the rhyming name, our second awardee is Ms. Joanne Alonsagan. Our third winner is Ms. Zara Cruzado. Fourth winner is Ms. Shaira Magnate Halago. And the thorn among the roses is Mr. Patrick Soniega. So to all our winners, congratulations and hoping to have more webinars with all of you. You really are our inspiration to continually conduct such events like this. Congratulations and hope you have enjoyed this webinar. As we formally end this nice virtual conference, we are elated to have our energetic and dynamic event chair for his closing remarks, Mr. Arnold Ancheta.
Thank you, Miss Ira. Good morning once again, everyone. This is Arnold Ancheta, the event chair. Our group would like to thank industry practitioners, administrators, faculty members, and students of the different higher education institutions in the country, and stakeholders who attended and participated in this event. This event was organized because of the challenges we experienced brought by the pandemic. But as leaders in the hospitality industry, we are not here just to let this pandemic bring us down. Hence, we brought to you the best speakers and their advocacies to enlighten us on what we should do. Our gratitude to our distinct keynote speaker, Atty. Allones, our featured speakers, Ms. Machi Borja, Professor Scott, Mr. Joel Pascual for sharing their thoughts and time with us. To our PWU family, the administration headed by the President Marco Alfredo M. Benitez, Multimedia Center headed by Dr. Menchita Dumlao, our Dean in School of Hospitality Management, Dr. Jose Efremuel Avellana, and also to Ms. Mercy Hernandez, to our professor, Dr. Cristina Caluza, for all your support in this endeavor. And of course, to our sponsor, JRPA Travel Services, for your support. In the end, may I share that in tourism industry, warm accommodation, eye-to-eye contact, and sincere smiles are very basic, but essentials in creating new engagements, friendships, and partnerships in our lives. Thank you. Stay safe, everyone, and be proactive on tourism advocacies.
Thank you very much, Sir Arnold. And to the class of Dr. Cristina and Caluza, everybody really worked hard. And as we end today's event, let us simultaneously sing the Philippine Women's University hymn virtually. everyone to our 1,209 participants coming from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We really appreciate you being here with us today. And this webinar is sponsored by JRPA Travel Services. We would also like to thank the ever-supportive and hardworking PWU Multimedia Center team, headed by Dr. Menchita F. Dumlao, together with Ma'am Maria Lourdes Cabatuando and Sir Robert F. Thomas. Thank you very much, sir, and congratulations to the class of Dr. Cristina and Caluza, the DDHR 604 class. And announcement po for the participants, please don't forget to click the link sent by our organizers in the chat box of FB. And for those who are in GMeet, you could find the evaluation link on the page of MICE. And please answer the evaluation form, for your response will be the basis for the issuance of your certificates. Please take note that we will only be accepting accomplished evaluation forms until 6 p.m. And it will take 2 to 3 weeks time before you could receive your e-certificates. Again, congratulations everybody. Thank you to our speakers, and we will see you next time. Have a great day and stay safe.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Sir Joel.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Sir Joel.